feeling like my back against the wall, yeah. I was scared cause I would have to give it all, yeah. Jumped out the deep end, now I'm swimming, I ain't fall, yeah. I felt the freedom for the first time, oh yeah. I was feeling like my back against the wall, yeah. I was scared cause I would have to give it all, yeah. Jumped out the deep end, now I'm swimming, I ain't fall, yeah. I felt the freedom for the first time, oh yeah. In the distance, I can hear you calling me. Help me listen. Even when it's hard to see. This my moment, dog. This my moment, dog. I'm going on and on, yeah. We gon' hold it down. This is your moment, dog. You gon' hold it down, down. You gon' hold it down. Done going through the motions now. I'm tired of going through the motions. Things just feel the same. Why can't life just change? I've been trying to find my way. I'm tired of going through the motions. I was just trying to be down. Now it's just time to be me. Now it's just time to be me. Tired of going through the motions. I was just trying to be down. Now it's just time to be me. Now it's just time to be me. Tired of going through the motions. Trying to make it through a long day with a uniform for a shirt. So quick to lose inspiration when I'm clocking back into work. It could be worse. I ain't sleeping in the dirt. I've been going through the motions while I'm on this earth. What's it worth? All this time been passing. Feels like I'm losing passion. Please God, make something happen. It feels like nothing happens. I need changes for the better. I've been walking through the weather. I'm so used to saying never. Maybe never lasts forever. I don't know. Feel my pain when I go through the rain. Do you go through the same? Yeah. Looking at them, now I gotta do me, boy, stay in my lane. Yeah. I gotta live my life for the light, man. I can't wait. Yeah, I ain't going down the drain. Tired of going through the motions. Things just feel the same. Why can't life just change? I've been trying to find my way. I'm tired of going through the motions. I was just trying to be down. Now it's just time to be me. Now it's just time to be me. Tired of going through the motions. I was just trying to be down. Now it's just time to be me. Now it's just time to be me. Tired of going through the motions. I got a Ford Focus, wish I had a Mercedes. Driving around the city, man, my schedule been crazy. I'm tired of being single, wish I had me a lady. I'm trying to find a promised land and someone gon' take me. Hey Chris, man, the world ain't really about you. It seems like you got something to prove. Yeah, I'm at a show, hop on the stage and go. I'm hearing a round of applause, but what if I lose my soul? All them long nights, lost in the hype, and we had to finish a song. Man, I've lost sight, looking at lights, I never let go of the phone. What if my whole life I missed the point, and then I end up alone? Emotions gon' make you a clone. Things just feel the same. Why can't life just change? I've been trying to find my way. I'm tired of going through the motions. I was just trying to be down. Now it's just time to be me. Now it's just time to be me. Tired of going through the motions. I was just trying to be down. Now it's just time to be me. Now it's just time to be me. I'm tired of going through the motions.
Hello, everyone. I completely hear you, Ria. I've been sleeping in a whole lot more, so I completely get it. My schedule is super off. I should be starting, at 10. But regardless, guys, we're going to be streaming soon. I'm just trying to get some stuff finished really quick. And yeah, we should be on. Let me actually switch this really quick. Yeah, give me like 2 minutes. I'm going to go grab a water. I'll be right back. Okay, guys? BRB. Yeah, I just ran up the flight of my stairs, man, and I need to get back in the gym. It's pretty bad. I'm over here breathing hard. Anyways, how's everyone going? How's everyone doing? Going. How's everyone going? Is that even a phrase? Ria says, I was watching yesterday's stream while I waited. Oh, okay. How did you like it? Was it good? I kind of felt like it was a little scuffed. I didn't feel as responsive as I typically am. And I think I'm getting a bit of a cold. Oh. Dear Lord, let today be a good day. In the name and blood of your Son, Christ of Nazareth. Thank you, God. Now, if you think about it, guys, if you think about it, every day is a beautiful day, even when it's a bad day. Because, you know, any day you're alive is a good one, right? A chance to talk to someone, do something you want. So it ain't all bad. But let's see. Let's go into wave collapse form. I just feel like I haven't opened the engine up in like an eon. So we're going to open it up here. So today what we have planned, a little bit of procedural generation stuff. I need to find a way to put a collider procedurally onto this mesh. Oh, so Ria, what are you having for breakfast, huh? Trying to just stretch a little bit. This weekend it's happening, guys. I'm going. Oh. What are you doing, stinker? My little girl over there. It was cool watching you make the water. Oh yeah, the ocean. Man, I couldn't believe that there was just a modifier that you could use. That was the funniest part to me. Not sure, something eventually, probably eggs. Oh, that's cool, yeah. Some eggs, don't forget the toast, man. You need the toast. You gotta have the toast or the biscuits or the something to go with them eggies. So, I think the original idea is that we have this here. If you look though, man, that still annoys me that we have geometry. There's still a lot I have to learn because I know there's a way to fix this. There has to be. Like, what the heck is that? This should not exist. It literally bevels everything. Is there any way to bevel? Maybe we could get the edges and then bevel those. Guess from group, points, edges, boom. Still gives us that, huh? So what has everyone in here been working on recently, huh? Any projects? So we fused the things. We need to get the edges. Is there like a get edge? Edge. Edge divide. Edge flip. Edge straighten. Curve from edges. Let's see if we can get a curve from these. Because if we're getting a curve from the edges, we are. But is it considering these edges curves, guys? Watt X, welcome to the channel, my friend. I'm trying to learn Blender again. Yes, Blender is one of those programs that the learning curve is a little high, but once you learn it, it's a very useful program. Kind of like everything, but Blender's user interface is not the most friendliest. Granted, I liked it a little bit more than Cinema 4D. I got the opportunity to use Cinema 4D, and I like how everything in Blender kind of feels like it's one macro. You press B and then S. Like, you know, with Cinema 4D, you'd have to access like beveling, you'd have to press M and then T, right? But with Blender, it's like, if you want to bevel something, you select the edges, you press B, and then you're starting to bevel, but then you have other macros within that you can essentially use to do bevel, to change bevel properties. Are you, WaveX, are you doing the donut tutorial? It's the best tutorial, man. Blender guru, dude. He is the man, the myth, the legend, the unsung hero of our generation. If you haven't checked him out, you should. Hey, so it does work. What the heck is it? When we do the fuse, though. Okay. What if we fuse now? Ria says, I've been making a kid's room in Blender. I think I'm done. Been rendering it. Wow, so you've been making a kid's room. That's pretty good. In that short amount of time? What the heck? It's crazy, actually. I feel like this should go up a little bit higher. It makes me mad that it does this before it does that. You can't fuse these together? Come on. Then it comes in and it's like, specified point. Oh, no, near points. Closest target points. That's interesting, don't you think, guys? Wadex says, I made a donut a while back trying to learn from weapon modeling and texture. Oh, nice. You're making weapons. Medieval weapons or boom, boom, shoot, shoot weapons? Guns. Which ones? Or they could be different type of weapon. I don't know. Are you going to be... how long have you been working on the kids' room? Look at these guys. Look at these. Pew pew weapons. All right. So lasers. Now he's like... Wait, so like a laser or more of like modern era weapons? If so, you got to join the Discord, man, and show us that. I've always tried to do weapons, and I've done, granted, a couple, but I feel like they're something on their own to completely master, you know? They're pretty difficult, especially because of how you have to use subdivisions and weight when you're subdividing. But yeah, if you haven't joined the Discord, the link is in the description of this video or this live stream. You go ahead and join, and you can share in the work and tell section if you want. But make sure if you join, you have to select a role like 3D artist or developer, and then you have full access to share all your stuff. Character modeling sounds fun. Pretty enduring or endearing. Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of work. I've definitely gotten better at it. I don't know. Maybe you've seen my video on Judah, but I'll give you a quick peep at him if you haven't. But I went through a lot of different variations. And I still feel like he's not completely finished. I know that sounds like, oh man, that means the game's going to be a little bit longer to produce. Couldn't load simple deform geonode groups. But yeah, here's Judah. He's cool and all, but I feel like there's more I could add to him. WattX, I'll join. Don't know many Christian game devs. Thank you. Yeah, I'm a breed of my own. Actually, no, I'm not a breed of my own. If you didn't know, if you're Christian WattX, and you didn't know, and you want to get closer to the community, something I'm going to be trying to do this year, there is a thing called Christian Game Developers Conference. It is a conference just like GDC, but it's Christians. So, yeah. Check out that. Who knows? Maybe we'll meet each other there. I can upload the render in Discord. Just let me know when you do that, because I would love to check it out. By the way, guys, if you haven't seen Ria's work, she is absolutely amazing at what she does. I mean, check this out. It's just very beautiful stuff, right? She says this isn't completely finished, but I mean, it still looks great. I mean, it's not finished, but look at this. Look at this, eh? The Discord link is not working. Okay, hold on. Let me get another one. That is interesting. It should work. I made it infinite. No limit, infinite. Boom. Let me go ahead and update the title as well. Woo. We're gonna update the Discord. Boom, boom, and update all. By the way, guys, if you have a Twitter, make sure to go follow me over there as well. I'm trying to grow on Twitter too, because you know, Twitter, I guess. What the heck is going on? Why is everything acting funky? But yeah, let's get back to this. I'm trying to bevel the corners, right? And then fuse these areas together. But it looks like that's not what is happening. Keep fused points. Fuse snapped points. Remove all unused points. There's got to be a way to bring these things together without completely destroying them. Can I get... It looks like if we do this originally without fusing them first, we're completely fine. We get the edges, right, that we want. But if you notice, as I pointed out earlier, these areas here are just not fusing together. And I don't know about you, but I think that's going to look a little ruddy. However, at the moment, I guess it's best if I just do it like this. And then we just put the geometry on it. And then export that. I was watching a video on this. Houdini. This one was it. Oh. I despise these advertisements. They're ridiculous, eh?
Hello.
They're ridiculous.
Welcome back to this next video.
All right, let's Let's go up.
And a UCX collision.
All right. We know you're making a switch.
Isolate.
He goes through the different type of collisions you can make.
And then I'm gonna flip.
But I think what I have to do is I have to essentially take
That should keep
or make another wave collapse function.
present on this mesh.
Right, which is kind of what I'm doing here in Houdini already. I have two merges. I have one that I'm currently beveling, and then I have this one that I'm not beveling. And this is kind of going to act as the collision for the mesh. Thanks. Yeah, no problem, Ria. You do excellent work. I think it all looks fabulous, and that stuff should be shared more. But let's jump back into this.
Grab these two right here on the left.
Oh, man.
Copy it. So we need to remove all of our attributes. So our UVs and normal too. That will create a clean piece of geometry for our collision. And then this one will deal with the scaling, of course. Basically,
So what does he remove?
0.0.
He removes attributes. What attributes?
Then let's give it a new normal. So over here on the left, I'm gonna grab this normal node. So as this will
Why does it matter if there's a normal?
I want to make sure that
I uploaded the room to Discord. Let's go check it out. Let's go check it out. Oh, wow, this is great. This is my latest project with Blender. It was a lot of fun. I might be making another room render soon. Holy crap, this is great. I like the little toy on the ground. Oh, that's pretty. Oh, you made all this stuff. Hey, check it out, chat. We got the cross. Praise the Lord. I love that. I like the little tiny elephant stuffed animals and the little doll sets in here. That's so sweet. She needs to add some stuff up here, though. This looks amazing, by the way. So good stuff for ya. I'm going to come in here and give this a pizza emote because I love pizza. And for some strange reason, if you put the heart emote, like you like something, everyone's acts a little strange. I don't know why. So I never do it. I learned a long time ago.
And then finally, let's give it a group for the collision.
Oh, man.
So in this case, this is going to take the UCX collision
Okay.
and it's going to turn it into a complex collision mesh. So let's call this one
How is this a complex collision, though?
collision from FBX
So he just gets it.
complex.
So in this one in particular, he loads in an FBX that has not only the collision
Gonna be
on it, but
for the complex collision,
it has the actual geometry.
and we're going to have to pair that with our actual.
But how does he export that into something that can be used in Unreal?
So with this set up, give it a color, and let's plug it in. So we need to
I need to use colors more, guys. I don't use them enough.
over here.
But yeah, guys, if you're interested in seeing the room Ria just made, make sure to join the Discord link in the description. Let me know if it works. I
It goes together, and let's
quite recently updated it. So yeah. And by the way, everyone, make sure to welcome WaveX into the Discord. Give them a big, warm welcome with a solid emote. Wave.
dude,
Oh man,
complex
I gotta close this again.
FBX collision. Okay, so that's going to be our first actual collision entry, or the second entry for the switch. Then let's go ahead and add the rendered collision geo simple that we'll need. So let's grab this collision node up here. Copy
This
it.
collision node.
I'm gonna plug it into our output here for the switch. And I'm gonna rename this one to rendered collision geo simple. So the actual group name. Let's copy that.
That one looks more complex than the other one, than the complex one.
Should be
The complex one is just a box.
Let's plug that into our switch over there. And then let's do the same thing again. Let's copy this. And let's rename this one to UCX. So all lowercase, simple should become UCX.
What is UCX even entitle?
Let's plug that in as well. Now, I might not need to actually move everything so far over to the right, so let's just grab it, move it a little closer. Okay. And now we should have control over what collision is going to come out of our loop. Alright. So with this, we can now switch between our FBX sourced complex collision, our new simple collision geometry, or our new UCX convex collision geometry.
Or the same thing.
Or just no collision at all. Alright, so let's go ahead and make sure this is being output and we can test it. So down here, I'm going to add a couple of cleaning groups just to make sure that whatever comes out of this network is clean and proper.
Networks. Now I gotta learn about networks. Holy cow.
And I want to grab
Holy cow. I was thinking of crap and cow.
attributes node. Copy that. Paste it down here.
So what does the clean attribute node even do? Houdini API. Let's go look at what is this? The clean attribute. Clean attribute. Sorry guys, there's a lot of learning going on right now. We got attribute delete. Clean degeneracy. What the heck is clean? Oh. Probably took me great work. How long did that elephant take? The elephant looks like it's the one that took the longest. It probably took me a couple hours. The elephants, cupcakes, and doll I made before this project. I also followed tutorials for them since they were some of the first things I made in Blender. Well, they look great, so you catch on quickly. I like the seams, more importantly, Rhea. It's the best part about those elephants is the seams. Did you do those manually or are they textured in? Slide on ring edges, auto. Never. I mean, they got collisions and limits. Detect collision, pinch, angle. You think they would have some way to figure out how to get specific angles in here. Let's just bevel this again. Poly bevel. Let's see if we can boom, do something again. We're still getting skipping edges with no manifold endpoints. Let's see if there's a way to clean this up. I'm gonna look this up in Google. So like Pinker says, I can redeem myself. How to fix non-manifold edges. So we kind of learn that. Let's go to clean. Consolidate points. Fix overlapping. Manifold only. Do I need to use the poly bevel first? And then clean after that? Right? And then we clean? No. No. But it looks like after we use a clean node, we're fine. But now we're not getting any... I mean, it looks a little bit better. Just a little bit. But I'd prefer... I mean, look, now we're getting these convex. They are minimal seams. I think I followed a CG cookie tutorial for the elephant plush. Okay. The CG cookie tutorials are pretty good. I watched a lot of hard surface modeling tutorials, so I should watch some more stuff on organic modeling, because organic modeling is kind of my it's the area I lack in. Let's see. So the clean does work. Orient polygons. Let's see how these things affect. Okay. So if you consolidate the points, then everything kind of comes together. Delete unused group, orient polygon. We can reverse or fix overlaps. Primitive thresholds. I don't even know what this does. But there should be a way to get edges, in my opinion. You know, if we come here, see that, everything's fine. Edge, cusp, edge, edge, flip. Edge of geometry. Okay. Looks like there's a whole conversation. With group nodes set to edges and mid edges angle. So what? Group node. So just something like this. And then in here, apparently, you can get edges. Oh, but if we look, we're getting these as well. Union with existing, intersect with existing, subtract from existing. Union, vertices, points, edges. But how do you get edges? I mean, like, it's not getting the edges. It's literally, I mean, I guess in hindsight, when they speak about edges, they're not specifically talking about this edge, right? And it looks like there might be, no, that's just a thick line and I have bad eyesight. Okay, cool. So it looks like it's just talking about like edges. So, you know, when you have a model, you know, these type of edges, right? Literally just talking about type. Keep binormal. So this is the specific side. What if I put like 1 here? Or then 1. Then it kind of gets everything. Include by edges. Points. If we enable by edges, doesn't let me edge depth. I can do edge depth. What is this? Edge depth, but when I use edge depth, it doesn't let me. Okay. Edge angle uses angle between edges. I'm just trying to mess with these to see unshared edges. What I could do to just grab this as a group, then we feed that. Oh, hey, thank you so much. What is that? Rashad's for the subscription. Everybody, welcome Rashad's. We appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for the support. How's the day going, man? And if you just want to stay lurking, you could do that too. So you can ignore me. But everybody, welcome, Rashads. We appreciate you. Another thing I would appreciate though right now is getting this to work, because then I can jump into other things. Even maybe if we go for points. Point group. We do point group. Primitives. Rashads, is this a mobile game you're working on? Yes, sir. Not. So this is the world. I'm trying to find a way to do procedural generation for the world, and I'm currently in Houdini trying out wave collapse function for it. So in our game, or in a platformer of any type, you know, you're running along, you know, a road. So I figured we could have stuff in the background here, right? And then we would have things here, you know, like obstacles and etc. But this is the game that I'm working on. It's still really scuffed right now because there's a lot of world building that we have to do. There's still a lot of things we have to clean up in regard to. It's a work in progress, right? Movement needs to be worked on. But here's the game. I'm trying to see if I can do some procedural generation. But you have health, you can heal. Now, the healing system may not be exactly what I want it to be right at the moment in regard to how you heal, but it's kind of a showcase of what we got going on. Run around. You can wall jump, you can climb. Some obstacles you can climb, some you can't. But you get the premise. If we look back here, sorry, we have this wave collapse function that we're making in Houdini, which is this, and we're importing it into this. Right now I'm kind of faking the collision with this box that we have here, but I need to find a way to get collision in here, and I need to find a way to bevel these edges without giving it so many vertices. I mean, it's a mobile game, so yeah, the less vertices the better. But sorry to make the answer so long, but yes, this is the mobile game I'm working on. This one in particular. Houdini is just a tool I'm going to be using in it a lot for environmental aspects, so it's probably not the funnest thing to watch. But if you're interested in learning Houdini, you know, maybe you'll like being here. I thought like setting this to like maybe a 90%. 90, right? Would help this. Maybe I need to look how to get edges of combined geometry based on angle. In the group node, there's a tab, keep binormals. Yeah. Yes, you're right. Interesting. I don't know how to use the Python in engine. So chat, Houdini has their own coding stuff, and I think it's you access it by using the Wrangler, attribute Wrangler. There's probably other ways to do it, but in here, They have their own language. It's called Vex. Vex. It's relatively simple to learn, but I just haven't used it enough to really solidify that information. So I'm just trying to use group nodes. Group by angle, I don't know. Group. But I'm just trying to use nodes at this point to find a way to get stuff. Group from name, no. I would like to just group by angle. You think that would be a function they'd already have? That's crazy. Like most 3D softwares have that already. Like I could select an angle in Blender based off of the angle, or an edge based off the angle, right? So that's something we can do here. So you would typically go like that. On here, it's very easy to do, but it doesn't select the edges in the way that we want them. Oh, but we can do max the opposite direction as well. Okay, keep that to 0, 1. Interesting. Can we do this to 90? No, we can't, or else it just goes haywire. Everything after 90 is no bueno. It sucks because it gets like a little annoying. Oh well. Include by angle, by edges, min edge angle. Group primitives with at least the angle between their normal for edge groups. An edge is included in the group if the two primitives that share it satisfy this angle. So it could be an issue with the angle. Let's try getting a group. Let's try getting a group before a certain point. I don't know where that certain point would be, but we go in here and go edges. Yeah, see where we can also do mid-edge length, but we're not trying to do that. We're just trying to... Fun! So much fun. Just give me what I want, man. That's all I ask for. They got vertices. We can get the vertices if we want. But we can only do it by bounding regions. And I apologize, guys, for my voice. I'm getting a little sick, I think. But yeah, this definitely isn't working. Sad. Houdini, how to get edges based off of angle. I can't know the difference between angle and calculate angle between edges.
Go to motionray.com to add this to your video, and that, and that.
And this, and everything else that you don't care about. Boom.
Hello and welcome to another Houdini. This video I will... you can use this technique, I think
That's cool. Made a curve, and then he's going to make
snap between these.
kind of a wall from it.
So
But
if you press... So... create and just write the point.
so he's actually writing this.
Equal to point 0. I need to get P.
Which is the point.
I had PT now. -1. And the triangle is like you don't need to for loop, so it's already is run over points here, as you can see. So for each point, if I turn on this point number
Yeah, but the issue is, I think.
and change
Well, let's see what he does.
size maybe to larger font size, you can see for this, for example, for this point is we need to next point and the previous point. Then we can just create two vector, right? So that's why I'm use the PT minus 1. 0.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel like learning Vex. Do I have to learn Vex for this? That's crazy. There's no way. Keep binormals. There's no way, dude. This is ridiculous. I think this is good feature requests. Just why don't we have it? 2017 it was made, the request, and we do not have it. I don't want to create this using Vex though. I don't want to use my brain. I just want to use nodes. I want the nodes to be the brain. So compare user normals against surface normals. Assign to group if within threshold. If this is greater than that, then we set the point group to this. I'm assuming this is the angle set, but can apparently be identified in connected neighbors of a point. That's not. Include by edges, param. Used as a same group for the UV flatten node. Yeah, that's what I tried to use, bro, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. We've tried it. I swear. We've done group. Right. Maybe we do it after the fuse. Right? We do it after the fuse. And we use include by edge. Edge. And then we turn these on. Boom, boom. And nothing. But yet they keep saying, this is the way. It is not the way. This can be used to select all sharp edges on a model. Very useful when used as seam group for the UV flatten. Doesn't work. Let's see what he got going on. Face it. Okay, so he does get the sharp edges. But you'll see in here there's some other edges that are being changed. So what? Face T? Face T, then he does a poly extrude on these things. Cusp polygon, cusp angle. And then here, I'm assuming this creates a group from that. Did he name a group at all? No. Guess from group. Points. Use accurate. It's interesting that the distance is still accessible for this guy even after that. Chase! How's it going, Chase? You chasing your dreams today, buddy? Because if not, you should be. Rashad Z, if I may ask, what made you want to use Unreal 5 for this project, especially for a mobile game? I like Unreal 5, and I've used Unity for mobile games in the past, right? I made a with my buddy, we made a dashboard. Play dashboard. Go to play dashboard. So I have made one in the past, right? Right, I've made a game in the past using Unity, and while it was easy, I don't know, I wanted to try Unreal. I like C++. It's probably one of my favorite languages to use, so I figured, well, let's check out the mobile variation. A lot of people say it's a pain. It was kind of a pain to set up, but you know, once I got it set up, it's pretty easy to use. And there's just a lot of functionality within Unreal. I don't know. That's primarily it, just because I wanted to. Kind of strange in that sense. Chase, I am good. That's nice to know. Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, it's just because I wanted to do it. That's how most of my decisions are made, and it's pretty bad. It's a bad way to make decisions. I want to do this, so I did it. But, you know, as long as it gets the job done, that's fine. I just been trying to learn Unreal for the last, year? So that's primarily it. But I have used Unity in the past for mobile software. So, but yeah. What the heck's going on with this? We get the face. You think we would make a group out of this, but in this image, this guy's like, I use this and then boom, I extrude. It doesn't, you're logged in. Thank you. You're saying you're trying to do. But if you want to operate on groups of, I need to go for a little bit, but I will return later. Okay, Chase, I'll see you when you come back. Thank you for stopping by and saying hi. Makes me feel special. I'll see you when you get back, buddy. Contiguous selection. It's ridiculous. Hey, Phantom, how's it going, man? Welcome in. Welcome in. What are you doing? I'm trying to figure out Houdini. We finished the logo thing, right? We got our logo finished. Let's see if I can. You know, we did this yesterday. Right? We've been doing this for the past week. It's still a work in progress, right, guys? But we finished it. So now it's back to world building. I just felt like it would be nicer for people to have more of a friendly, what's the word? I just wanted it to look better, the logo, because right now it just looks scuff. I mean, if you saw our Twitter banner, it was just line of Judah. It was like just a vector. It was dull. It was boring. So I wanted to create some. I'm doing this because I'm trying to create more excitement around the game. Have you watched the movie Wonka? No. Is it good? Because I'm interested in watching the movie Wonka. So look at all these blue lines, chat. See these blue lines? Those lines gotta do something. Oh, so it does get them. Check it out. If we come here and we clean, it's doing all that. But if we come here, we select, we get all these edges, yo. Poly, bevel. I will go tomorrow to see it. Really? Will you tell me how good it is? You can share it in the Discord if you're in here tomorrow. After you see it, you can always tell me then. And the theater is empty, so it'll be just me and my cousin. Ooh. Maybe I take my kid to go see that. Does it come out tomorrow or does it come out today? Maybe I go take my kid to see that today. In the evening. Shmee. Go have a little family trip. she's been heavy into Wonka recently. Willy Wonka. She watched the old Willy Wonka or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Then she watched Willy Wonka with Johnny Depp. My favorite, personally, though, is the original Willy Wonka. You just can't beat that movie, chat. I'm sorry. There's something really beautiful about it. I was thinking about it yesterday after dropping my brother off at the airport. And I think at some point they were trying to find in the recent movie another way to explore the world, and what's the best way to do that by exploring Wonka and his life, you know? But I think really the special thing about that film is Charlie's life, right? It bred hope in children. You know, it's just some poor kid who gets this chance of a lifetime, and you know, because he's so poor and humble, he that chance of a lifetime works perfectly for him. You know, it bred hope for kids back in the day, you know, made them have dreams. And now it's just like, let's talk about Wonka and his life. And I guess you could say like it's one of those type of stories too, because I mean, if you watch the recent one, Johnny Depp's father, or Wonka's father, isn't really accepting of him and his passion, and it's because of what his father is into that Willie has those passions, right? Yes, go with your kid. I heard it is so good. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to take her, and maybe I'll take my fiance because she likes those movies too. Ignore flat edges, huh? What is going on? But now we're getting this weirdness. Let's maybe we have to like inverse the selection to do it. Sorry, I kind of went on a tangent there. Scale by attribute, no scaling. But yeah, if we look at this, it's like beveling everything besides those edges, right? Like prior to this, it bevels them. After this, it doesn't bevel them. So that inclines me to believe that we need to kind of reverse whatever is going on in here. Let's put this back to 20. And by the way, guys, thank you all for the support and the love. It's highly appreciated. Just watching, hanging out means a lot. The movie, it's tomorrow at 11 a.m., so we'll have to hurry. Yeah, 11 a.m. I've got to look. Hey, thank you guys for the follows, too. We got WattX checking out the follows on Twitter. I'm just trying to see when the movie comes out. Wonka. Did it already release? Yeah, it released on the 15th. I'll have to go check it out. It's a fantasy musical. Okay. And it's 2 hours. I'm happy that they're starting to bump the hours up on these films, man. Beforehand, they just weren't bumping anything up. It was bumping it down. We were getting like movies that were an hour and 20 minutes long. Granted, I think the time length is better for trilogies such as like movies like, you know, The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or Harry Potter, and even some of the Marvel movies too. But I'm gonna be real with you guys. I've been getting kind of bored of the hero movies. It's just the same thing over and over again. Good guy endures sad things, but comes out triumphant. They need to find another way to rework that. The only thing that kind of destroys my opinion or my conclusion on this is that we're still beveling this edge. But you know what it actually is? Never mind. It's this that's getting beveled, and it's sliding across this. So we need to find a way to inverse or get this group. I don't know if that becomes accessible for us. No, it doesn't. Guess from group. Edges. Right? There's got to be a way. So it looks like we get these, but we're not making a group out of them. See, it's kind of selected all these. And I think that maybe they freeze those edges. I don't know in your country, in Romania. Yeah, here I'm in the USA, man. They look like they had a couple of it looked like they had a couple. But I'll probably figure that out later when I decide to go, cuz here in my country we have like show times all the time, it feels like, so shouldn't be too big of a deal to get in and watch something if I really want to. Exclusions group at name group 1. Oh, you know what it is? It's this. Edges. Include by edges. So face it. What does this even do? Face SOP. Let's just look at face it in Houdini's little API. Is this it? Yeah, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Let's go into here. Houdini. By the way, thank you all for being here. And if you haven't already, make sure to click that like and the subscribe button. And if you feel up to it, click that notification bell. We stream every day here on the channel, Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. PST to about 2 p.m. PST, okay? Right now, because of vacation, my kid's still on vacation. We're on kind of a loopy schedule. I've been getting on anywhere between 10 a.m. to about 11 a.m. PST, so keep that in mind. On the 9th of this month, that should change, because that's when they go back to school. And I'll be waking up a lot earlier. Houdini API. Actually, Fast. That's what it's called. Consolidate points. What does consolidating a point mean? What does consolidate? Ah, so it does kind of freeze it. Is there any way to reverse what this does? There's got to be a way. So let's just delete this. Now this is sad because it doesn't know what to grab. So we can get by the group. We can choose the group type. Unique, make normal unit length. No consolidate. But see, here's the thing. We're not consolidating. Mine's all polygons, the same direction, cusp angles. Edge cusp. Let's check this out. Look, and now we're getting this. Cut boundary points, update point normals. So now we're getting all this. And I guaranteed if we ran a poly bubble on this, it would just do everything, right? Or wouldn't do anything at all because it looks like it consolidates those as well. Interesting. Interesting. Me edges. So we don't want to edge with which to create a cusp. I just want to get, I want to get those edges. I want to use that to get the, so we have facet, facet, which kind of does this already. And we have to cusp polygons. And there, see? The angle we cusp them on, 20-degree angle, works perfectly. What if I use polygon or polybevel here and then do that? See, now it's working. But as you can see, we're getting these things, which we don't like. We don't want to get all of these. This is just too much geometry. And for a mobile game, it's kind of like, we don't need that. We can get rid of all that. So how do we do that? And right now we're just trying to get the edges so we can specifically, after we've cleaned the geometry, we've merged the geometry. Well, you know, I said that in reverse. You get the point. But how do we only get these edges here? That is an interesting thing. But if we go like this and we cusp those, then we take that away because we're kind of solidifying those edges on that angle. Or what if we go to orient polygon, inline points, cusp. There's got to be a way to feed that selection into something. Working on the levels now. Yes, sir. Working on the levels, or at least trying to. How's it going, bud? Over at Twitch. Yeah. Just trying to find a way to bevel these so the geometry is clean and not completely, like if I were to show you this right now, since you just got in, everyone's seen this, but, or you, if we go like this and we divide, you'll see that we get these nice, like rounded, we get these nice little rounded edges, right? But we get all this geometry that we don't need. So I'm trying to figure out how to only bevel the edges. And that's been somewhat of a complicated process here in Houdini. Pretty hard, complicated process. Makes me sad. But yeah, we found a way to get these edges. Group, combine, maybe there's group invert. Group find path, group name, group, guide group. Houdini. How to group cusp edges. Distinct edges on a model during render time. Yep, that's primitive edges are issues you want to group. Group geometry node. But see, since this is all procedurally done, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that at all. Because since it's procedurally done, there's no way for us to know where the edges are going to be 24/7. I can't just select them every time. Ooh. Calculate angles between edges. Brilliant. What was it, like $100 for that? Jesus.
Here, you start from 0.
Ah, man. He does this. Select edge ring. Calculate angle between. The stuff looks cool, man. Glad to see everything coming together. I appreciate it. Yeah, yesterday we worked on we finally got the logo semi-decent looking for you know, social reasons. Sorry, I was interrupted in the middle of typing. Oh, no, you're fine. I'm sorry to have interrupted you. By the way, everyone, say hi to Bud. He's a cool guy. Known him forever. Currently working on a logo for him too. So make sure to say hi to him. He's actually in our Discord as well, but he is not. He doesn't make games. He's he trains people to race go-karts. Isn't that cool, guys? Make sure to say hi. What the heck? How do I get these things? I just want this simple thing. It's simple. It should be like this. And then I go include by edges. And then I click these buttons and that's it. Points. It's crazy you can do it with primitives, right, guys? But you can't do it with points. You say vertices, I guess. No. Edges, you can do it. Yeah. I think I'm wasting too much time trying to jump down this little rabbit hole. Base group. Edge. Bevel edge. I don't know. Oh no, this gets the base group. We don't need base group. Bevel edge. Oh hey, what the heck? Now it works? Now it works? Chat, do you see this? Do you guys see this? Now it works? How though? How does that work? Okay. Maybe you need to give it a name. I don't know why it suddenly worked. Holy crap, let's try this now. Did anyone see that? Ennis. Sorry if I butcher this. Anis Yildirium. Bro, I trying to do something with PY Gaming. What do you think about it? I don't know what PY Gaming is. What is that? Let me look that up. PY Gaming. PY Game. Computer program. What is this? Python. Oh, that's sick. So they have Python models designed for writing video games. I mean, I think it's cool. I don't know anything much about it. But, you know, if you can use Python to make games, that's sick. Anything that you can use to make games is cool. So if you're comfortable with Python, do that. If you're looking for something similar, I heard, actually, let me, Godot, language similarity, similar to PY Game, yeah. Yeah, so it's a Python-esque language, Godot is. So if you want a variation and you're not really happy with PY Gaming, try out Godot, man. Did that fix the geometry? Not yet. But we can poly this based off of the bevel edge, right? Check that out, chat. Check that out, chat! Oh, I'm so stoked right now. I don't know why it finally worked. But it did, and I'm so happy. We can do a chamfer, but we're still getting some really weird. But yeah, to answer your question, it did. Now we have decent geometry. We're not over creating any geometry here. I will say though, I mean, this is better than nothing, right? But you know, check that out. We are just affecting the edges. That's awesome, dude. I'm stoked. Although I would say I wish they would, you know, instead of creating this, they would just bloop down the line, you know? Rashad Z. I mainly use Godot 4, but C# though, even though I'm not a big fan of their native coding language. But you know, Python, it should be easy to transfer over. Exactly. Exactly. Kami! Hey, Kami. How's it going, my friend? Welcome to the channel. We finally did the thing, guys. We did the thing. Chat, we did the thing. And it's amazing. Look. Boom. 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 How do I stop seeing the freaking wireframe? I don't know how to not see it. But yeah, now we're getting clean geometry. I'm gonna keep saying that because I've been trying to figure out how to do this forever. And it wasn't working. The group wasn't working. And now it finally works, and that's sick. Maybe I should triangulate this though. I'm gonna be real with you guys because I don't know how Unreal Engine is gonna triangulate these things, so it's probably best that we triangulate them. In the future, I don't know if we're going to have to, like, I could come in here and UV unwrap everything, right? We're not really getting any UVs from this. Plans, spacing. Yeah, we're not getting anything from this at the moment. But yeah, that's awesome, dude. I'm stoked. I am as happy as I can be. But I'm a little sad that when our UV unwrap isn't working. UV, flatten, fuse, layout, UV texture, UV unwrap. Should work. But it's not. It's being grumpy with me. Square, strip, square. We can do... What if we do one? I guess not. We'd have to UV unwrap each and every... I mean, I guess we already do that here. But we're not particularly seeing the UV. And it's probably because of this. If I get rid of this. No. Oh. We got to figure out how to use this more. Attributes, name. Hi guys. Kami. Coming in. How's your day going, Kami? How's your day doing? Don't mind me sometimes, guys. English is my native language, but I don't know, my brain stinks, so I can't speak it sometimes. Properly, at least. I saw the logo. It turned out pretty good. Yeah, but I would agree it's only pretty good. And don't worry, guys. It is a work in progress. It's just something to make... it's just... Everything else was so bland. The logo was so bland. And I don't think it was as enticing to look at what I was doing because of it. So we decided to kind of... spruce up the area, clean it up, make it look semi-decent. But there's still stuff that I want to add to it. Some details, like Rhea mentioned, maybe some animals, some starfish, a crab. I gotta fix that. But I want to add some leaves onto the vines and change this tree and how it looks. But I feel like from afar, it looks pretty good. Kami says, I was busy looking for a job all day, then I went for a little walk. Okay. That's nice. Yeah, I need to go for a little walk, man, a little run. I used to do 2 miles a day, and now I don't do any miles a day. I need to go on a walk. But how's the job looking going? Yeah, sorry, I'm just kind of marveling at what I finally was able to accomplish. We can save asset, level, wave collapse. But yeah, we need to find a way. We need to find a way to start outing out certain aspects. We've triangulated these. The normals are good on them as well too, right guys? I think. Yeah, we have these. The initializer, wrong tiles. We copied a point. We merged them here. And then over here, we have our collision geo, which is, you know, we created a group create collision geo. That doesn't make any sense. Collision, game engine, collision. Yeah, see, that's interesting, isn't it? Like, it creates a group of primitives. But yeah, so we essentially bevel this off, make it nice, and then we have ourselves some geometry here to go over it. Realistically, we don't need these things, right? We just need the edges. I would like to delete these entirely because this is all going to just be visuals. And if the character somehow gets in between the planes here, this isn't going to matter much at all. So that might be the next thing in the future to really make it more performant, I guess you could call it. I don't know. There's an opportunity to work in the company. However, they require knowledge of English. Hope I have a high enough level. Well, Kami, from speaking with you, you seem like you have a high enough level to me, because your conversations so far are clear and concise, and to argue, I think you speak it better than I do so far. So hopefully that gives you some a little bit more courage and more affirmation. I think you'll do fine, my friend. Okay, so I think the best thing I can do is when we're copying these to points, we can exclude the names. Can we exclude anything from this? Thanks, bro. Try my best. Yeah, that's all you can do at the end of the day. And as long as you're clear and concise, and I'm sure it doesn't need to be like super on point. Those things will come as you speak with others, and other people are decent enough where they'll see that and they won't mind it. Now, the real issue that I'm trying to think about is how we're going to add stuff to this. Because this would be like a level that you would load into. We'd have a start point and an end point. You come in here, you do things, but it's just about beautifying this up. But I think the first step is just getting collisions in and working, and trying to do it with as less geometry as possible, so there's just less vertices on screen. And the really crazy part is eventually, I could do a lot of those by textures, but I think eventually, right, we're going to be having a lot more going on. Realistically, I could probably, because these here, I could probably suture these out more. But to them, they just see it as a flat plane. Like these, there's a tile set for each one. So I wouldn't be able to do like a square that's extruded down, because when they add it, it would just be that square extruded down every time. Which is why I wish there was a way to have like sub-tiles. Like you'd have one tile, for instance, like I could have this tile here, but there's multiple type of tiles. And there's probably a way to do that that I don't know of at the moment. But yeah, so far we have this, and then we have this. And to argue, I could probably put the bevels up a little bit more to make them a little bit tighter. But now, you know, that's another thing to put in our bag. If only I could get... What is there? Split? Or there's delete? Labs delete small parts. You can blast. I think, what is it called? Blast? Yeah, we could try blasting. It just does. It just blasts everything, though. Edges. Everything gets destroyed. Yeah, we just have names. That name. Oh, we could do... What are the... If we go back here... Oh. So what if we just blast O? Hey! And there we go. Check it out, guys. Now we have exactly what we wanted. But now we don't have any... We don't have... Okay, that doesn't matter anyways. So there we go. Check it out. Now we have the collisions. Oh! And now it's about trying to figure out how to get these collisions in the game. So we have our regular geometry. Is there any way to add a note on these so when I look at this later, I'm not completely... Create a new sticky note. Create a network box. Awesome. Geometry. I don't know what you'd call this. I don't know. Art geometry. No, that's just geometry and then collisions. Collision. Geo. Let's move this over. I need to work on just input geo. Wave collapse. And we don't even know if this is fully going to work yet, guys. This is all, you know, test for testing purposes. But with that being said, I'm going to go use the restroom really quick, guys. I will be back. And if you haven't already, make sure to click that like and subscribe button. It helps out so much. And yeah, if you do so, I appreciate you. But I'm going to go use the restroom. BRB. All right, guys, I'm back. I am back. I'm sorry. I was using the restroom and then I had to run and grab another water. How's everyone holding in there this fine evening? Pep. This guy, man. Just go over here, Pippi. Come here, buddy. Give me hugs. Give me love. I guess he doesn't want any of that right now. But yeah, let's try to figure out how to get this into the thing. By the way, guys, I appreciate all of you. So with that being said, if anyone out there has a private account and they've subscribed to the channel, I won't see it. So if you're a lurker, that's completely fine. But I do want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you. Now let's look at this video to see how he does this. Because there's gotta... I've tried importing it before into here, and we don't get any type of collision on this particular mesh. I would love to just be able to throw this in here and have that collision. Where is the actual... So we have the bake here, but let's go ahead and re-import. Successfully re-imported. Yeah, action-packed. But look, check it out. Oh, that's her. Remember, guys, display. Ria says, it's been a good day so far. I enjoy the streams while working. Yeah, it is nice, isn't it? It kind of feels like you have some company, and to be honest, it works both ways. So it's nice to have people to talk to while I'm working.
Real material primitive attribute. That one we need to keep as well, right? Go over here, and let's filter that one out. Make sure you add the hat symbol in front of it.
The hat symbol? I thought it was the up arrow.
And then let's also add a group delete node. Let's copy from here on the left. This one.
Group delete. So it's group delete. Why does he delete all these groups? I guess it's just not good practice to have...
Except for rendered collision geometry with an asterisk behind it, because we do have different types of rendered collision geo, like the simple X collision. And then the same thing for collision geo here. Let's also add an asterisk to that.
That's interesting. Out FBX visualizer.
Let's also make sure we have an...
I'm probably have to watch this from the beginning, chat.
This mesh.
But it's a very, very... I mean, this is an hour long, so it's like, Jesus.
Group
What is that? Group create.
down below. I like to do this because if I ever need to take this data out of this tool, then I at least know which one of this is which.
Which one is which? Okay.
So with that, we should be ready. Let's go to the end of the network. Save this out. And let's load it into Unreal. So re-import, rebuild.
Okay.
Now we should have some collision assigned to our models. And you can actually see that we do have some doubled up collision. Now I think this is because right now it is set to packed instances in combination with our complex collision. And if you recall, if you do that, there's this bug, right? So if we just quickly look at the slides again, then it will actually double up your instancers.
Pack plus collision geo creates a single complex, a simple collision from a second included collision mesh, and then instances these for every copy of the pack geometry.
Create a second instance
That might be something
with the collision
we
geometry.
kind of go into.
Now this isn't a big problem because we can go ahead and filter that out, but it is a bit of a nuisance. Like here you can see we actually have two instancers But besides that, let's go ahead and test out the rest of the tool. So let's switch it over to copied geometry instead.
Okay.
Now we should actually have a collision mesh with our vents. Here we go. So this is going to be the collision mesh for our vents, for every vent. And then here's the actual model.
Okay.
Collision mesh assigned right there. So this thing
Man, it just feels like there's a lot of stuff I'm gonna have to learn.
Complex collision. Here we go. So that's the actual collision mesh being used on this model. That's working.
But how does he set it so it actually
Down.
sets it to that?
Simple collision. Now by default, if you apply this to the entire set of meshes, and we actually look at the collision right now, then you'll see that everything gets added in one giant collision box. And that's simply because we aren't splitting this collision for every single model, right? We are basically just combining them all together and then creating one single rendered simple collision out of that. So we still actually need to address that. We'll do that in a minute. But if we set this to instances, however, then inside of our models down here, we should now have a dedicated collision for this model as a simple type. So this will then work for the instances. So every single instance here has its own simple collision. Now let's switch this over.
I can't believe it's 12 already.
Now if we look at it, and we look at the simple collision again, now you can see now it's using the convex UCX collision for this model, and that then gets instanced onto So all of this should be working. In fact, we can actually test this out if you want. Let's grab this character. Let's drop him on the building. So let's quickly test this out. Let's say I jump onto one of these vents here. And if we look below the feet of the player, we can see that on the right side of the vent, we can stand on pretty much the surface. But the moment I walk towards the left, I'm starting to float. And that's actually because our collision mesh, our UCX collision, being generated from the shape of this vent, is causing us to walk up into the air a bit.
Factions, empires.
Everything that we don't care about.
That's related to the way
Well, maybe some.
shaped on these vents, right? The convex bounding box has that shape because of that. So with that, we can pretty much say that our current collision system is working, but we still need to make sure that we deal with it when it's actually set to copied geometry.
Yeah, but how does he even... He doesn't really say.
Points node will be instanced anything after. B, if it is set to simple copy mode
Pack and instance.
for the entire model.
I need to find some good Christian, like, solo artists out there who are willing to let me use their music. Like hip-hop artists on the channel. Let's see. Fuse. When we copy to points, we don't pack an instance. And now we're not getting this. Triangulate. And when we do this, we're not getting this because of this pack an instance. Transform using the transform looks like crap. Pack the input source geometry into a pack geometry primitive before copying. This results in the input geometry being shared instance by each copy rather than being duplicated for each copy. So it essentially packs. I don't know if that's the way to go. I wish there was a way for this to know whenever I'm watching something else, like Spotify. Like if I go to watch something else, it would turn that off,
Set the instance mode. It will
especially in streamer mode.
instances, like we just
That
discussed.
sounds like an interesting
Turn on that, and let's open
thing to
the
create.
and let's paste it into our new.
What is this that he's using? He's using a parameter description, ordered menu, it looks like.
Parameter.
Hmm.
Like that. And then let's go over to the menu tab. And in here, I want to add 4 entries. The first one is going to be 0 for no collision.
No collision.
And that will be in case we simply don't want collision.
Stud tool. What the heck is this? It's just a switch.
Okay. Let's grab the setting from here on the right. And let's paste it in here. So we have, you can see that right now we are filtering it out here on the left.
Okay. But he uses an FBX out node in here. Is there like an FBX BX output? We have this, but it looks like he has like another type out FBX. Let's click. What is this? It's a network node. I think he called it network node, material network, chop network, copy network. I don't know what it is, but all. I'm trying to see if there is a way. Wow, that's a lot. Holy mo, what? It goes on forever. Yeah, good luck finding it in this. Yeah, I don't think that's the most useful way. Let's free tutorial. Foundation, updating an existing utility. Well, where's the first one? Suckafoo. He's got that. Let's do this. Trailer videos. I'm sorry, guys. We're going to have to see what he's actually doing to fully comprehend how he's going about creating all of this.
Engine that I need to address. And next to that, there's also a difference with the curve swap that we need to cover. As you can see here, I also have I started unique textures which weren't present in the original example files. So there's some new goodies here, and of course feel free to check it out right now if you download the version 1.1 example files. And just to point it out, these files were created in Houdini 18.5, then they were upgraded to Houdini 19 at the end of the foundation module. But in order to make them compatible with both the previous version and the current version of the Houdini, these how we can. I just want to, however, you need to set the project that this hip file is in. So go to set project.
Hold up, guys. What, sweetheart?
I thought they had your VCR headset.
Huh?
On the ad, they had your VCR headset.
Oh, really? That's cool. I didn't know that. Well, Daddy's working okay, sweetheart?
I'm hungry. Is it lunch yet?
No, not yet. You just had cereal. Didn't you? A while back? Like an hour or so ago?
I'm hungry.
You're still hungry? All right. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to go make her something to eat really quick. BRB. All right, guys, I'm back. Feed child snack was a success. 'Twas a success.
Select the main folder, not the commercial version project folder, but the main folder. Click accept. And then install the HDAs. So go to Houdini Digital Assets under Import. And then select the digital assets that match your version of Houdini. So if you're loading the indie version, the HIP LC file, make sure you load the HDA LC files. Otherwise, if you load the commercial version, make sure you load the HDA files. Now, just as a reminder, if you were to load the indie license versions of the assets or the scene file into a commercial license of Houdini, then it will convert it down to a indie license session. And anything you save at that point will be saved out or overwritten into a indie license file. Just keep that in mind, okay? Don't go and load the indie license files if you're working with a commercial version of Houdini. It will save you a lot of headache.
Come on.
Anyway.
Want your video to stand out? Go to motionarray.com.
If you've installed those files into your scene, then everything should be fine. So let's go ahead and have a look at what's different in Houdini 19. But overall, as far as I'm aware, the tool should be functioning just the same as it did in Houdini 18.5. Now, that is not to say that there aren't any changes in Houdini 19 that you might want to become aware of. One of these points, split it, or, however, polygon mode. But if you create a new curve solve, 2, make sure you only draw one curve and that you add to your curve instead of creating new ones, because we won't be able to properly support multiple curves. Okay? Good. These will work. So if we want to do that, of the date from, have should still hold true. Foundation, building.
Okay.
Let's connect these two together. Later type properties for a moment.
All right. He creates a digital asset.
And if you recall, in case you watch the Houdini 101 series, object level assets are actually
Okay.
as main tool wrappers, the ones that you build for your main assets for the Unreal Engine. So let's go ahead and create an object level digital asset. Now to do this, I'm going to work over here in my network editor.
Okay.
And let's create a new subnet in this folder. If I click tab and type subnet, I can create an empty subnetwork. And this is basically just an empty container, but we're going to convert this into a digital asset.
Okay.
Call this one the student tool foundation building. Let's connect these two together.
All right. Okay.
And you'll notice my naming convention. In general, I put the name of the project that I'm working on in front. Then I tell it if it's a tool or a utility. The tools being the main tools for the project, the ones that we can use inside of Unreal. And the utilities are the subcomponents that we don't tend to use in Unreal. They are parts of the bigger tools. They facilitate particular features, right? Like texturing objects or calculating certain things. They're
Okay.
like Houdini nodes in that way. And then the last part here is the name. Now, my naming convention is for attributes, and I will do that for. So that's what I mean with camel case. And I will do that for attributes, do too. And camel case is pretty simple.
Okay.
Let me just
Get it.
grab a node here of some kind and show you.
So that's what he was using, a null,
The foundation
I believe.
project.
I don't do
So let's
camel
start with
case.
the lowercase, and then every other word is capitalized. So that's what I mean with camel case. And I will do that for attributes, and I will do that for groups, and for node names, and everything. With the exception of when I create a digital asset.
I gotta clean my room today,
Now that
chat.
I have this, let's go ahead and create a digital asset out of this. Let's right click it. And I'm going to say create digital asset.
Okay.
And when I do this, it's going to ask me the name of the tool. Now, I've already given it a name. So let's copy the operator label right here. And let's paste it into the top operator name field. When we do this, it's going to
We saw his name.
every single word.
Erwin.
Operator names need to be continuous. They cannot have spaces. And they can also not have special characters. And then next to that, we need to specify our file path. Now we already know that we want to save it inside of with the name.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and click accept. And then accept this as well.
Sorry,
And now we have
guys.
our digital asset. So at this point, in our folder under HDA, Houdini will have created a HDA file.
Let's see even what, because wave collapse function. Let's right click and where is it? Houdini, recenter, recook selected. Connected, cooking. Of course, we still have to expose some properties in the wave collapse function to change it, but for now, I just want to see what we're actually getting from this. We should be getting not only the geometry here, but the collision as well. So we'll find out here in a second. And that's cooking, so I guess we'll watch this while we're
And this
waiting.
is going to be our main tool. Later on, we'll import this into Unreal as well. Alright, so the next thing that I want to do is set up the inputs. Now, there's one problem with using object level tools, and that's that they don't actually have input dots. I could specify an input dot here on the tool, and if I click apply, it will create one. However, we cannot actually plug in control curves into the input dots of object level assets. And even if you try to plug it in, it wouldn't work. So instead, what we need to do is create a geometry container and put a curve inside that. And then we'll use a different method to retrieve it. So let's go ahead and create a geometry container. And if we do that, let's go ahead and place it here. And let me bring up the list view so we can see this better. And I'm going to call this one building shape.
Okay. At least we're going to learn how to, because right now, all I know about doing chat is creating a, I don't know. So let's go up here. Boom, boom, boom. We have this. It has one input. And I think if we go to parameter and channel, edit parameter interface. Yeah. Where is he at specifically? Boom, 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 boom. Edit operator type parameter. So if we go into edit or asset, we can edit this, but that will only take us, okay, so it takes us here. We can go to parameters, yada, yada. But maximum inputs, we have an input, but we don't need it. But as you could see, all I know so far is just creating something in here, and then whatever is in here is created, right? But I guess we'll learn how to have inputs coming in as well. Let's go ahead and check this. This was built. We have this, and we have a Houdini mesh component. But as you can tell, we don't have any collisions being brought in with this. Well, actually, let's delete this really quick. And then bring back this. And actor, we can set blueprint. We'll probably have to make it a blueprint or an actor. Yeah, there's a lot to learn, but once we figure it out, I think we should be okay. Shoot. Let's rebuild. I can't. Did I just rebuild again? Trying to see if we can get a hold of that. Because in here, we've created, you know, we're essentially creating a procedurally generated level with our own tile sets, which are essentially the same as the one that they give with Wang. I mean, if we switch over, you'll see that he has that, but we essentially reverse them. Right? These are insides of a level or like a room, but we're reversing it, so the person is going to be walking on the edges. And in here, you know, we would have the floors, which are these, and then tiles that are on the inside, and so on and so forth. We got to find a way to get the areas out here to add the O's into them, but I don't know how we would specifically do that, because we have our grid. Where is the grid? This is our grid. We would have to go one extra and then add those in. But we'll figure that all out at some point. Just, it's going to be a process, chat, just so you know. And let me just visualize this for the moment, so we're not just looking at dots on a screen. But yeah, let's go back to the video.
Inside this geometry container, I can dive in and I can go ahead and create a curve object. Now let me hide the operator type properties for a moment. Now this curve object will allow us to draw the shape of our building. If you select it with the coordinate field empty, and let me go ahead and show you how this works. I can grab the handle tool here on the left or press the enter key to activate the tool's handle mode, and then I can start drawing. Now I suggest you turn on the grid snap here on the left, or you can press the X key and then bring up grid snap.
Okay, I didn't know about that.
Now let's go ahead and draw a curve by simply clicking into the screen. And as you do this, you'll notice that the curve starts drawing points, basically point coordinates, over here on the right. But let me quickly explain to you what these coordinates mean. Over here we have a string of coordinates with very long numbers. But in reality, what these say is -1, 0, 0. And that's because whenever Houdini has to give you a very, very tiny number, it will show it as a fraction using E dash and then whatever fraction number it has. In this case, this is something to the 8th degree. And that's because when we place these points, we snap them to the grid.
Was that a natural log?
Height, well, that basically means that
log?
they are almost
It's not
zero,
natural log.
but not quite. If I go ahead and move this point around, then you see how it does shift. And every time it snaps to the grid, it gives me these fraction numbers. We can practically ignore the fact that these are not 0 because they're so fractionally small numbers. But if we want to be sure that everything is flat 0, then in a moment we'll actually flatten this inside of the tool. So everything is exactly at grid height. Everything is going to be at Y0. Next to that is basically just a string of these values. So every single time we add a new point or move a point, it's going to add another value to this list. Next to this, the curve node has the ability to output different types of curves.
And he can close it as well.
Type. Right now it's outputting polygons, but we can also output NURBS curves, for example. And by default, it's going to work with CVs. Now in this video, I'm not going to explain the details of NURBS curves per se, but they're basically a different type.
You use those like if you wanted to
create interpolations between
maybe a mountain.
And if I were to show you the hulls here, you can see how each of the points is connected, and it tries to interpolate between those. Now, that's about as far as I'm going to go right now about NURBS, because this project is not going to use NURBS. While we could potentially use them for the project, the building might not work properly with them, So I'm going to leave this alone for now. We'll visit this later in the master class though. Next, we could also create points, and these just output points without the curves in between. There are other ways to do this as well, such as the add node. For now, all I want is a polygon, so let's go with that one. Then we have the option to close the curve, and when this happens, it will create a plane or a primitive. And instead of creating an edge primitive or polyline, such as this is a single polyline with multiple points. Houdini will go ahead and create a polygon surface,
which you can use to extrude up.
Clockwise or counterclockwise that we drew this polyplane in will determine if the plane is facing upwards or downwards. Basically, if it's forward facing normal, located at its number here, it's pointing down or up. So this is another thing that we're gonna have to fix, because I do want my planes to all face upwards. We can actually reverse the curve by hand by clicking on reverse here, and this will change the order in which the points are ordered, or rather the vertex order will be changed under the hood. And when you change the numbering of the vertices in the polygon, the plane will reverse. But in this case, I want to make an automated system that does this for us. So let's go ahead and leave this curve unclosed and unreversed, and we'll deal with it inside the tool, so we actually know it will work. So next we have to deal with the problem of how to get this curve into our object level asset, how to install it basically. And there's a way to do it, but we have to do it in a very particular way, using an object merge. Now, if we're dealing with a surface operator asset, it's very easy, because surface operator assets automatically come with their own inputs, and Unreal will recognize those as potential inputs.
Okay.
In fact, we can automatically assign them to be curve inputs if we want to. Now, if we're dealing with surface operators, so let's create a subnet here. And let's call this the input test. Now, this subnetwork will already work to demonstrate my purpose here. I mean, I could plug in this curve, but let's go ahead and show this in Unreal. So I'm going to right click, create digital asset.
Another one.
And then let's just quickly give it a name. I'll keep it in the default folder. Let's accept that. And then by default, this is going to create a surface operator digital asset with inputs and outputs. So that's fine. And then let me just plug this in. And quickly inside, let's create a ends node. And I'll explain later exactly what this does. But with the ends node, if we set it to close straight, it will close my curve. Now if I save this asset by right clicking and going to save node type, I can now import it into Unreal. Alright, so let's go over to Unreal. And here we have the example scene again. Let's look down here somewhere at the bottom.
It's crazy how it
import the test asset.
Says these numbers, or I guess the sides or the faces.
Default my documents folder. I have this saved, so I can grab it and drag it into my content browser. So I'm going to drop it inside the content HDA folder, right there. Then
I like that naming convention a little bit more, to be honest.
Then it will activate the asset. But right now it's not doing anything. It's not drawing any planes, even though we do have something in the asset, if you recall. We added this ends node, but it's not working because there's no input, and that will throw an error. So, inside of Unreal, what we would have to do is go here to Houdini inputs and switch this to curve input. And the moment we do that, Houdini will create a curve for us, a 2-point curve. We cannot actually delete any of these points. These curves have to have at least 2 points.
But you can extrude from them, right?
If I click Alt and start dragging, let's say clockwise, then now we do have a plane. But this plane, well, it's currently inside the ground. So let's grab some of these points and let's move them above the ground so we can actually see what we're doing. Okay, so with this, you can see we do have a plane, but we did actually have to configure it so it created the curve. Now earlier I mentioned that we could actually set it up so it could generate a curve by default. And to do this, we need to make sure that it has the term curve in the name of one of the inputs of this SOP operator type asset. So let's go back to Houdini. And in here, I'm going to make a change to this asset. Let's open up the type properties. From here, right click and go to type properties. And then inside of the type properties, we can go to input and output. And then here, if we type curve, and then we go and apply that, or accept, then now let's go back to Unreal, go to the input test and right click it and re-import.
Then rebuild.
And this will re-import the asset inside my content browser, but it won't refresh the tool over here automatically. To do that, we have to click rebuild. But of course, I want to demonstrate that it will automatically generate a curve. So let's actually get rid of this asset. So let's click this one, delete it, and let's drop a new one in our scene. And now you can see that it no longer shows the Houdini icon. And if I click the asset up here, the asset component, and now we do actually have
a curve.
So that's working. Now, in this case, I can go ahead and drag my points out with the Alt key, and it works. But that's not the only thing that the Houdini engine is actually capable of. Because while in Houdini, we only have one input dot, and that means we can only plug in one curve. In Unreal, we can plug in multiple. Now, of course, in Houdini, we can create multiple input dots, or maybe grab a merge node and then plug in multiple curves. So if I do that, then theoretically, I could have as many of these planes as I want to, right? I could have one here and one there.
Okay.
And this tool will just process both. So we have two primitives right now. But in Unreal, we can bypass this. We don't actually need a merge node, and we don't need multiple inputs, because we can add more right here with the plus button.
Okay.
Click this. Then now Unreal will create another curve. And if I move this one over and draw another curve like this, then now I have two primitives from two inputs, Houdini spline 0 and Houdini spline 1. So this means that Unreal can process multiple curves, multiple inputs in one input dot. But you notice that the entire system that we just built was based on the surface operator type asset, right? So inside Houdini, this is inside a geometry container, meaning that it's a surface operator type asset. We can actually build curves in here. But the moment we want to make this for an object level asset, we can no longer do this. So let's go ahead and create that example too. And in here, on the object level, let's create another subnet. Now I'm gonna go and
Sorry guys, I know this is not the most entertaining thing to watch, but you know, to get to the point where I need to be in order to make the assets for the game, these are things I'm gonna have to watch here and there, so I apologize. But if you're interested in following me on this journey, you know, make sure to click the like, subscribe button, you know, and the notification bell as well, right?
object input.
It means a lot to me. When I see them after the stream, I dance a little. Maybe I'll share that video one day.
So let's copy the name.
Might be interesting for you guys to watch.
Now, just like before, I'm going to add an input dot right here. And let's also go ahead under inputs and outputs and name this one curve. Okay, now let's go ahead and accept that.
So this time he didn't create a geometry node. He just created a subnetwork outside of the geometry node. So now it's on an object level. Ria, it's fine. It's a learning process. Glad to be here. Thank you, Ria. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. And hey, I mean, if you're really watching, maybe you learned something about Houdini too. If you ever decide to pick it up and you could see the possibilities with it.
So let's grab
You know?
from our documents folder, drag it into the content browser, and if I plug it into my scene here, then what you notice is that it doesn't actually create the input information that we got from our surface operator asset. In fact, the only thing we're seeing here are the default parameters that you would get with a object level asset. It's,
Okay.
Object container transform and subnet parameter controls. So we can already see that this isn't working, but let me explain why. Let's go back to Houdini, and in here let's go to this object input test here. Let's try to plug in our curves. So here we have our curves, right? They're inside this container. Let's plug them in. So if this was a SOP level context, then now you would think you would have these curves go through this line.
That's what you would think.
Object level asset.
But it don't work that way.
So let's go with that. Let's go inside.
At least from my
And
experience.
here we have our inputs. Okay, so
Does it
next,
work?
what do we do? Well, we can't do anything with it unless we create a geometry container. So let's go ahead and do that too. Let's grab this line and plug it in.
So you have to create a geometry
Container. And
to output that geometry.
well, nothing. Because, and here's the reason, these lines on the object level are not the same as inside the surface operator level. In fact, if I go and create a new, say, box object, right? So this will create a box object inside of a geometry container. And let me just quickly hide all my other objects. Okay. Now, inside of here, I can of course go ahead and add maybe a color node. And let's plug that in. And let's make this something like blue. And let's add an output node as well, so we are sure that this is being output. Okay, just for good measure.
That made me mad. Is that an actual freaking thing in a geometry node? I don't know if you guys saw my face, but I was like, because I swear I put like output. Oh my god. Boom. Okay. Okay. But what if I come out of it? I don't have I have one singular output here on the object level. Is there like split? No, there's not. Interesting. I do have outputs though. Output index 0, index 1. Can you have an infinite amount? You can. All right. Let's continue the video, guys.
So now we have a box with a color.
We have to watch this because I have to figure out how to add collisions.
And let's plug these together. Let's move it over. So I'm actually moving the object container in world space, not the model. If I look at the model itself, then in fact it is still at the world center for all it is concerned. It just means that it's at the world center of its own object container.
Okay.
Else
So it's relative.
is that whatever you see inside of a service operator asset based on the coordinates of the object container that it's
Man, learning is exhausting. I'm sorry.
But
You're yawning.
Side, what's happening here is that now we have two boxes, and let's make this one a different color. And the first box is sending data to the second box. But unlike in the SOP context, where we have geometry that then feeds data to the next node, which then processes it, and then feeds it to the next, and then that one processes it, Object level, that's not what's happening here. On the object level, these links simply parent these two objects together. So if I grab this blue box, box 1, and I move it,
Oh,
and now you can see that both boxes are moving together.
so it just makes box 2 a child of box 1.
The second box doesn't have that transform. It just knows it is transformed at -2. But notice that its own coordinates are now based on the first box, right? If I go ahead and connect this, then now it's back in world space.
How did he do
based
that?
On the world space transform. It just knows it is transformed at -2. But
How did he
its own
how did he
coordinates are now
split
based on the
those?
first box, right? If I go ahead and disconnect this, then now it's back in world space based on the world space coordinate. So all this does
Okay.
is parent these objects together. And it isn't sending information through. This link here doesn't send information from the curve from outside. All it does is bind this geometry object to that geometry object.
Okay, so it just parents it.
Then inside, you see how our geometry container has effectively also moved. So if I place a box in here, you can see that it's basically bound to where my curve is. That's all it's done. But okay, so take all of this into account. Then what does it actually mean? Well, it basically means that we need to load this curve in through a different means, through a different method. Now I'm going to get rid of this object input test here and put this back where it used to be. So let's grab this container and put it back at 0, 0. Normally I don't move my containers around. It will mess with whatever we're trying to do in Unreal. So keep it at 0. Okay. But what this means is that if we want to bring this curve into our object level asset down here, then what we have to do is use an object merge. And let me show you how to do that next. Okay, so back here in Houdini, in order to get curves to load...
Man, I'll say this much though. The fact that he's able to just do this efficiently and effectively just showcases how much he knows the information.
asset, we need to create something called an object merge.
It was very hard to create like just one long take of that. No mistakes, no mispronunciations.
Don't get confused here. We're gonna apply
Pretty cool
that.
stuff.
So it removes the input dot. Because as an object level asset, we need to create object merges inside of this tool. Now, at this moment, this node is completely empty. It's basically just an empty object container. Right?
Okay.
There's no geometry in here, and I can't even see where I am. So let's go ahead and turn on the grid so I can actually see where I'm navigating in this menu. If I go to Tools and then turn on Grid Lines, I can now see, well, I can see a grid inside of here, so I have a better idea on where I'm looking and the scale that I'm looking at. Next,
It's already
let's
1
turn on
o'clock.
Grid Slider,
Jesus.
so we can organize our nodes a bit better. So next, let's go ahead and create a geometry container. Let's press Tab, and let's place a geometry container inside this node. And I'm going to call this container the building asset. At this moment, we are watching our scene through ghost other objects. That means that we can still see our curve, but it's a bit faded out. So I know what I'm looking at here. Now, what I want to do is import this curve into this geometry container. And we can do that very easily using an object merge. So let's go inside and let's create an object merge node. And the object merge sub allows us to import any other object into our scene. In this case, we need to reference our curve from outside. So we can do that from this drop down here. If we click on this button, we will open up the operator chooser. As you can see, we can see the network here. And then we have the building shape right there. Let's go ahead and import this with a relative path. I'm going to grab the curve, but I could also grab the entire container if I want to.
Okay.
Now at this point, we have our curve being loaded into our tool, and it will work, except that it isn't ready to be a tool just yet, because we have two problems. One, like this, Unreal won't recognize this as an actual input. For that, we need to promote this to the top level. And second, right now this object merge is referencing an object from outside of the tool network. As you can see, it's inside of our tool here,
Okay.
and it's navigating outside the tool there to the curve. And then
Oh, hey. You can even see it visually.
top level, we have this reference being created.
That's interesting.
And this would be fine if the reference was being made through the interface of our tool. But right now it isn't. It's being referenced directly from this object merge to this curve, and that is illegal inside Houdini.
Really?
Or at least it's not recommended. Let's have a look at the interface of our tool right now. We see that we here have two folders on our tool, and let me go ahead and open up a separate parameter pane for this actually. Let's go to the tool, go to parameters and channels, and then open up parameters. Here we go. So this is basically the same panel, but just floating, so we can keep it around. And as you can see, we do have some folders in here, including some transforms and a subnet. This allows us to control the object level asset. You won't get this with surface operator assets, but you will get it with object level assets. And I don't want to see this. So let's go ahead and change the settings on our asset here. We can either right click on the node and go to type properties, or we can click on the icon here and go to type properties there.
I didn't know that. The more you know.
Inside the tool, the first thing I want to do is hide these transform and subnet folders.
Today is going to be fast. Yes, it is going to be fast.
I'm going to use control.
It just feels like I haven't done much. Just a lot of learning. We figured out how to, like as a recap of what we've done, we're working in Houdini to create a procedural world, or at least see if it's possible. But we've learned how to essentially figure out the hard edges, right? So we can specifically bevel those, and that way we don't create any extra geometry. We figured out that we needed to create or take the simplified version of that in order to, and how to delete or blast the geometry we don't need. So we're saving more vertices, making it more performant to create a collision for this specific object when we're bringing it into Unreal. However, we're still having a hard time outputting these, so I'm watching this entire tutorial to figure that out.
Parameters. So
But it's crazy. As another side note, it's absolutely crazy how long it took me to do something as simple as this. But now that we know it, it won't do that in the future. We know that we can actually get these groups from an include by edge. I think we just have to change the name. Right? We just have to change the name, which was interesting. We weren't getting anything beforehand. So thank God that finally worked. But yeah, let's get back to the business.
in our way. And because they are default parameters on the node, we cannot actually remove them. We actually have to hide them. Now next, what I need to do is replace this path
Okay.
here on our object merge inside of our tool. And I'm just going to create a little bit of space here on my scene. Let me drag this over, because unfortunately the edit type properties window is always very big. I can't scale this thing very well. Now what I want to do first is delete this reference.
Okay.
I know that right now we are importing our curve into our tool, but I need to fix this link. So let's go ahead and delete this path. And now what I want to do is import this object one path here into my tool. So let's go ahead and grab the object one parameter path here
Mm-hmm.
and drag it over into the interface window of our type properties. And when we do this, it now adds it as a parameter, and I want to give this a name. So let's call this one the curve input building. And then the next one I'll call the building input curve.
Okay.
And the reason I gave it the name curve at the start, or at least anywhere inside of the name, is because when the name curve exists,
Jesus, these are all an hour long.
Input that leads to an object merge.
I'll be watching these off stream, guys, and trying to figure this out as well.
As a curve input, and will create a curve for us. So inside of Unreal, if I grab any of these tools, and I make sure I can see my curves, then you see that at the bottom of the tools, they automatically come with these curve objects. If I go ahead and drag...
Oh, so he uses a curve to know how long he's going to extrude as well.
If I click on the tool, then you see that it automatically comes with a curve pre-installed. Let's go to the Setup tab of the tool. And then at the bottom, you see Building Curve. That's the object merge input, and it's automatically being set. And it's called Building Curve input. So the one that we just created before as the object merge.
Okay.
Now, as long as it's set to curve, Unreal will automatically recognize it as a curve input as opposed to a default input. But at least this means that now when we drop down a tool, we will immediately see something. So that's what we basically just did. We created a new type of input that isn't directly linked to the node, but Unreal still recognizes as an input. Okay, so that's enough for this for now. What I want to do is create a folder, drag it in here, and then drop this one into the folder.
Oh, that allows him to separate and create tabs. See, folder type tabs. So that allows him to create those tabs that we saw earlier. Sorry to kind of move you guys around so much.
With a curve
right here. See these like in the Houdini parameters, he's got doors and windows, balconies, so on and so forth. That's where he's done that.
Drag it in here. From there, let's go ahead and apply this. And if you click accept or close the window, then now at the top of the tool.
Wait, how did he reference that?
And this is just to keep it all neat. From there, let's go for now. What I want to do is.
So he just has curve input building. Is that the same name as what he? No, he just has building asset, building shape. Building
folder
or shape and then curve
in here, and then drop this one into the folder. And I'm gonna call this folder setup.
So he doesn't really care about creating a curve because he can just create that in the engine.
From there, let's go ahead and apply this. And if you click accept or close the window.
Oh, I think what he's gonna do is reference.
We will have a setup folder with our building input curve parameter right
okay
here. So that's basically what we would see inside of Unreal. Right there.
It's fascinating.
Let's go ahead and specify our curve from the building shape. So let's click on this. Then click on the curve object or the building shape object. Either one will do. And let's get the relative path and let's accept that. So now we have a properly installed curve inside of our tool. And we are actually ready to start working.
Okay.
Now, if we were to create a surface operator asset, this would be a lot simpler. But for this course, I want to make an object level asset. So I have to show you this. I'm sorry, it's complicated. So
not really.
If you need to. But when you understand how this works and how Unreal will process it, you'll be ready and set to make your own object level tools for Unreal. So next, let's go ahead and actually continue building out our tool, because I've spent enough time on how to set up the inputs. Now I want to make my building space a little bit easier to work with, so I'm going to go up to my building set and change it to my recording layout. And this will give me a slightly different layout to work with. It seems to have removed my grid, so let's bring that one back too.
Honestly, guys, also on another side note, I know we have music in the background typically, but I keep getting like copyright strikes, and as we progress further and further into the future, at some point I might have to delete those old live streams, right? Because they're copyrighted. So once I can monetize the channel, they'll become an issue for me. So with that being said, I think in order progressing down the future to preserve the library of live streams we have, I might have to just start streaming without music, which kind of stinks because it helps me to concentrate. It's nice for you guys to listen to in the background, especially if you're working and doing your own thing. But yeah, it's probably something we're going to have to delete unless I can find some way to live stream music without it being an issue.
Okay, so now I have the parameter panel.
I thought I had found some. I thought I had found some music that was free, but apparently it's not. I looked online to see like free playlists on Spotify. I was shown one thing. There's a website for it and everything, like specifically for this playlist that the creator makes. It's all free to use, but for some strange reason, we're getting copyright striked on every single video. So, yeah.
And I have my window here and the geometry spreadsheet on the bottom. And I don't really need my timeline or my shelf, so let's hide those. So I have some nice real estate space to work in.
They need to create something like Twitch creates, you know?
Is do some of the cleaning operations that I talked about. Like I said, the curves can be closed and they can create surfaces, and they also need to be flipped up in the right direction. So to do this, let's go ahead and first create a null node, because I like to keep my inputs nicely labeled. Now in this case, I do have an object merge. If this was a sub operator node, it would be a regular type of input that you would see inside of those. Like I said, the curves can be closed and they can create surfaces, and they also need to be flipped up in the right direction.
Okay.
So to do this, let's go ahead and first create a null node, because I like to keep my inputs nicely labeled. Now in this case, I do have an object merge. If this was a sub operator node, it would be a regular type of input that you would see inside of those. But let's go ahead and link these up and give them some names. So this is the building curve input, and I'll just call this one input for now. And I'm going to color both of these blue, because I consider this to be the input of my tool. This is where my data is coming from, and for me personally, blue is a data color, right?
Okay.
Source color. So next, what I need to do is take this curve and close it, so we get a nice polygon plane out of it. And to do that, we can use an ends node. Let's press tab and type ends. And the ends node allows us to take a curve or a surface and either...
But what's the point of the null? What is the point of the null? Like if I were to come in here and type in null, what is its purpose? Copy input, cache input. Yeah, I don't get it.
Connect the ends together or disconnect them. So this allows us to turn a curve into a surface and a surface into a curve. Or at least it's one of the ways to do it. Over here on the right, we have to set this thing to take the close U channel and change it to close straight. When we do this, it will take the endpoints of this curve and it will connect them. So now we have a surface. Now the next thing I want to do is make sure that this surface is actually completely flat. Because when we're drawing our curve, it's actually possible to draw it in all kinds of shapes. The moment we turn it into a surface, it's going to become a polygon, and that can cause some weirdness, right? It can cause some weird shapes. So if I go back to my curve, and I grab some of its points, and I drag them out, say below the grid here. Maybe I move this one a bit up. Okay, so this thing is no longer planar at this point. It's 3D shaped. It has a 3D shape. So if we turn this into a polygon,
yeah, it looks wonky.
Here now, you can see how it's no longer a proper flat polygon, and we can't really make a building out of this. We want our floors to be flat. So to fix this, we can use
Was
a
there a
transform.
flatten? Oh, transform?
And I'll show you two different methods actually to do this. But the
Was he
transform
gonna
node is probably one of the more straightforward ones.
Chase
Grab
Lee!
the transform node,
Welcome back, my friend. How was your adventure for the day?
connect it up, and in here we have the ability to set its scale in Y to 0. Now the transform node allows me to move this shape around. So for example, I could translate it. or I
But
could
he's just
rotate it,
scaling it.
just like how I described in the Houdini 101 series. So right now,
Okay.
by flattening it in
By the
Y,
way, Chase, welcome.
what I basically
Welcome. I don't know where you left off on the stream, but we were able to find out a way. If you use the music safe for copyright, are you supposed to link credit in your description, at least keep from getting the strikes? That could be possibly it. However, from my knowledge, I don't know if that's the case. So we'll have to look and see, because it's an entire playlist. So I'd have to literally every single song in there, I'd have to do. So it's a lot of extra work and a lot of extra reading. So if I'm able to just copyright or put in, for instance, just the playlist itself, then that's fine, because that's not much reading at all. But if it's every song, that's another thing. But I think you're right, Ria. But yeah, Chase, if you didn't know, we were able to get the edges of these. So now we have really clean geometry across the board. There's no extra edges being created where I don't want them to be created. And on top of that, we also have our collision geo, which no longer has areas or geometry that we don't need collision on, right? If someone breaks through this, then there's another issue going on in regard to, Unreal stuff. But yeah, that's kind of where we left off. Now we're trying to figure out how we're going to import this into Unreal and get two of these, because as of the moment right now, we are getting this main shape here, just kind of the level. And I hope this really clarifies some things for people. Also in the future, sorry, we don't want to move that. This lower area would be, kind of like an underground area. This up area is going to be like more sky stuff. But yeah, that's kind of it for now. We're not done streaming yet. It's 1:22, but that's kind of where we're at and why we're watching this long, tedious 1 hour video.
object, and I flattened it to its pivot point.
And thank you, Chase. Thank you.
And if I do that, I will flatten it to that location. So I could set the scale to 0 on Y and then flatten it in any location as I need to. But in this case, I just want to flatten it to the grid. So I'm going to keep this pivot point at 0.
Good to
Also,
know.
the order in which it applies the transformations matters. Right now, it first scales the object, then it rotates it, and then it translates it.
Okay, so that's what
So
that
the
means.
Transformations in the X, Y, and Z orientation in that order. Now, this is one way to do flattening, and I'm going to call this node the flatten transform.
I should probably start naming my nodes too.
Now, there's another way how we can create a flat surface, and that is by taking the point positions of each of these points on the Y channel and flattening those to 0 exactly.
Was that like an attribute wrangler?
Attribute wrangle mode.
Yeah. See, Chad, I've been paying it.
Nodes because they're much
Been watching the things.
to write with. Even though they're a little bit
That makes a good base for testing levels, exactly. And once we start getting into it, I'm going to try to find ways to get access to these areas, maybe add some, because right now if we shoot, I can't even do it because we don't have collisions. But if we run over here, at some point our camera is going to come over and we're going to see that there's nothing here. So we got to find a way to fill out or flood the areas around it as well with some type of tiling information. We're gonna have to get creative with some things, but with that being said, yeah, it should be interesting. But for now, let's look at this video. But yeah, I'm gonna go on a tangent.
Knowing
Gotta stop myself
or
from the
the
tangent.
basics of Vex will help you out a lot, because you can do a lot very quickly. Let's go ahead and create an attribute wrangle. So just type attrib wrangle and you'll find it. Or maybe wrangle. If I place down a wrangle node, plug it in here, what I would like to do is set the point position in the Y direction to 0.
I like how everyone knows Vex, and it's like
For attribute,
okay,
E for
okay,
the position,
equals
and then we can type dot Y,
okay,
grab it
dot
to
Y because we're getting the specific
value,
Y
so that's
equals 0.
this one here,
Is that what it's gonna be? Is it gonna be equal 0?
0. And then because it's Vex, you have to add a terminator, which in this case is a semicolon.
Okay,
Now, in order to make Vex accept this,
that was an interesting
go ahead and click
transition.
into the network view or anywhere else on your screen, and it will apply the Vex code and compile it. So now our entire plane has been snapped to
That's interesting. That's a nice way to do it
Now,
too.
just out of cleanliness, I also want to add a V to the front of this attribute.
What is
So
that for?
Make sure that it references the point position vector attribute. This just makes it a little bit faster for Houdini to process it, but frankly, it just makes it so that if you're dealing with strings or some other more complex attributes, Houdini is sure what you're actually talking about.
Okay.
Error out on you or try to grab the wrong type of attribute.
Does it really matter though, because of
Default practice.
at its positioning in the hierarchy tree or in the, I don't know what you would call them,
I'll show
in the
you
network?
types as we write more Vex code, or if you follow the Houdini 101, then you'll also have a better idea on what I'm talking about. But don't worry, we'll get to it.
Because I would like to learn Vex code. If I'm learning Houdini, Vex code
Is check if
probably help with a lot of things.
And to do this, we can do this very quickly using a group expression node. Now the group expression node, just like a wrangle node, allows us to create a little script, though a very simple one, that can check if a certain condition is true. Now in this case, what I want to do is grab this plane, grab its normal direction, which we can find. It is present because it is a polygon, and because it is a polygon, it has a normal, a forward-facing normal. This is the front of the plane. So the normal of this plane currently is pointing down
Isn't that what you'd want though?
towards negative y, right? So positive y is up, and negative y is down.
Unless it's a shell,
In the primitive
right? Because I'm thinking like if he's trying to create a box, you'd think he'd want, you know, it to be encased. And for that to be encased, it'd have to point down.
the normal coordinate. If I go ahead and create a normal node, and I plug this in, and I set it to primitives, then it will expose my current primitive normal for this plane, for this polygon. Now you can see how the y channel is set to -1. So this is a way for us to recognize if a plane or surface is upside down or not. And we can do this very quickly using a group expression to filter those out. In this case, what I want to do is create a group when the plane is upside down. Now, I want to see my groups, so I'm going to open up the group display and attribute list.
Okay.
And it's currently set to the star symbol, meaning that we'll select everything. And then next, let's go ahead and write a little group expression over here inside the group expression node. We need to make sure it is set to primitive type, because I want to select the primitives that are upside down. And then I want to create a group called flip. Let's type this, flip, right here. And inside the expression, I want to access the normal attribute. Now, as you saw, when I create a normal node, it actually exposes the normal attribute.
Okay.
And the normal attribute is a default attribute on any geometry. It's just hidden most of the time, but it is actually there. So in this case, what we can do is say vector attribute normal, or n.
Okay.
And if this in the y direction, dot y, is less than 0, then I want to group it. And if I click somewhere in the screen and accept this script, now you can see how it's creating a group called flip on my geometry because it's upside down.
There's a lot of good information, guys. I'm sorry, it's boring, right? Like, I don't blame people for coming in and leaving.
Using a reverse
But, you know, it's a part of the game development journey. And if you love that journey and appreciate that journey, make sure to like, subscribe,
the vertex
and, you know,
surface,
join the journey. I don't know. That's kind of bad.
applying it to everything.
Yeah, like and subscribe, guys. It does really help.
So up here in the group field, let's say flip. And that should ensure that we are applying the reversing operation only to our grouped geometry when the plane is actually upside down. Okay, so this method is pretty accurate in that it will always select everything below the Y direction. So if we have any plane that is even remotely pointing downward, it will be selected. But let's say we want to grab an arbitrary direction, right? And we want to select everything within a certain range of that direction. Well, for that we can use a different method. And for that we can use the group node. Now, if you followed the Houdini 101 video on groups, and you already know this one, basically, if we were to grab a group node, a group swap, and let's call this one flip as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to switch it over from base group, which will select everything right now.
You can do keep by normals,
Normals.
and then you can do negative.
Now specify a direction. Now by default it's going to point towards positive Z, which is to the left, right?
To the left, to the left.
And if I were to take my spread angle and I decrease this, then at some point it's going to stop selecting my plane. Right now it is. And that basically means that our plane is pointing downward and our selection direction is left. So if I start at 0, then it will only select things that are pointing pretty much straight to the left. But if I go and expand this angle far enough, and once we go over 90 degrees, we will start selecting this plane. So we will, you know, select this angle range here, everything pointing towards this direction. So we can use this, of course, if we grab the negative Y direction
And then turn that to
select
0.
a reasonable angle. So we could select everything under 90 degrees, but let's pick everything under, say, 89 degrees, okay? And then, of course, this will also allow us to select everything that is upside down, just the same as we did with our group expression node. Now, I'm not going to keep everything here in my scene, so I'm going to get rid of this again. And instead, next, let's have a look at another method. And this is the last one.
How many methods is this guy going to teach us?
You want to
We don't need to know these many methods. I just want to know how to do it.
angle node.
That's it.
I'll quickly show you how to do that. Let's go ahead and create another wrangle node.
Well, you know, I'd prefer to actually to see how to do it through the wrangle.
This one in. Now, normally we could probably write this script in the same wrangle node. I mean, you don't have to be limited to writing just one line. We could write a lot of lines of code
Okay.
in the wrangle node, except that in this
We can do a lot of
case,
lines.
primitives, and this one is processing the points.
True. So he wants to specifically target the primitives.
Primitive mode.
Okay.
And this one's gonna process
Okay, buddy.
primitive in our geometry here. Right now we only have one, but that doesn't matter. And we can add a group called flip, the same way how we did it in the group expression node, by typing @group.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the way to create a group or reference a group in Vex is by typing @group_, and then specify the name of the group.
So he's going to create a group. He's not really referencing it.
And then I can write
v@n.
if expression.
And I'm saying this out loud because I'm trying to see if I'm right on the logic here.
1 will set the group, 0 will not set the group. But if I write in between brackets here, a
Wait.
small condition,
What is he saying about
let's
these?
say equals, and then I can write either a small if expression, or
Okay.
I can just give it a number, so it's 1 or 0. 1 will set the group, 0 will not set the group. But if I write in between brackets here, a small
He
condition,
can be specific to the
v at
condition.
n dot
Okay.
y is less than 0, then now this wrangle node is going to do the same thing as our group expression node did before. So in this case, it has actually
So now he has.
this plane.
Okay.
This is how you can write it with pure Vex code.
I actually like. I'm gonna subscribe to this guy. If you're interested into Houdini, make sure you subscribe to this guy too. Very, very thorough,
If you want to
very
subscribe
concise
to this video,
tutorials, and they're very in depth as well.
next, let's go
So-
ahead and take these nodes. These are my clean nodes. I'm gonna get rid of this normal node, by the way. I'm gonna grab these, drag them down a bit, and we're gonna put these inside of a
Subnet.
net box.
More net boxes,
Now,
networks,
in order to create a net
subnets.
box, you can either click up here. but
Oh.
Because my screen is very thin, some of my buttons have disappeared. If that happens, you
Ugh.
can also type Shift O, and this will create a net box for you. Now the net box is basically just a little wrapper that we can put around our nodes, allows us to keep our network nice and clean and organized, and I'm going
Okay.
to use them a lot. I'm going to call this one, this net box, the floor plane. Okay, so now that we have our plane, it's flattened and it's reversed, we are now ready to start working.
But the thing is, okay, so he's already gotten the normals. The stuff on the left, I don't know why he's keeping that. Because from my knowledge, if they're not connected, they're not going to feed that information any further. So maybe he'll use them for something later in the future. I don't
A
know.
couple of lines. So we just created a surface. Now I'm going to carve it into lines. Well, you'll see why. Okay. So let's go ahead and create a convert line node. And the convert line node, if we plug this in, is going to take our polygon and take all of its edges.
So what, he's going to do all that just to
edges between
undo it?
and it's going to carve it all up and turn them into individual little primitive line objects. So now you can see down here. we have a
Okay.
lot of them.
Oh,
So the
so that's how he's going to specifically...
the length of every
Mhm.
line automatically. It's a small but useful node. In general, if you need to carve up a line, this one's a very quick and useful way to do it.
So is that how he's going to extrude up?
Is take these curves and I'm going to subdivide them. Because all this has done
Okay.
right now is it's taken my points, the ones that I've drawn,
And then he's going to use the subdivision
lines.
to do stuff in between those, I'm assuming.
What I want to do is take each of the parts of my building here,
Yeah.
these tile rows, and I want to subdivide it so I have windows between all of my points. To do this, we can use a resample node.
You know, originally I started watching this because I just wanted to learn about how to incorporate collisions. But I'm actually really happy that I've decided to start from the first one and move up. Obviously, I'll watch these off stream, guys. So next time we're hanging out, I probably won't be watching these. It just all depends on if I can watch it tonight without being bugged by my child. She's here. She's looking. But anyways, yeah.
Node allows us to take any edge and resample it
Daddy,
with a point.
Here we are.
look.
Oh my gosh. Look at all your little puppies.
Some more babies.
She's got baby puppies. Okay.
So more little bit.
All right. Love you, baby girl. Thank you for showing me. I gotta brush her hair, man. My crazy haired lady.
So in this case, if I plug this in, it's going to try to resample it by 0.1. Now, word of caution, if you're using a very large object, by default, if you plug it in with a 0.1 value, Houdini might slow down a bit. Okay? It might even
Might slow down.
completely if you feed it a lot of data and a very large amount of
Yeah.
very large objects.
I expected as much.
Best case in that case is to either change the value before you plug it in over here, switch it to something more acceptable, a larger value, or keep your Houdini session in manual mode so it doesn't update, plug it in, change the value, and then turn it back on. Anyway, that's just a little word of warning. But as for the resample node itself, what it does is it takes any line or any edge, like I mentioned, and it subdivides it. Now let's go ahead and have a look at the length value here. Now by default, the resample node will try to resample every polygon line or polygon edge as accurately as possible to this length. But it's also going to try to make sure that all the segments have an even length. If I look closer to this line here, for example, number 4, and I increase the length value, you see how it tries to keep it evenly spaced? And if I go big enough, at some point it just disappears. Now it's doing this because right now we are working with polygon primitive lines that are only this long. Let me turn off the convert line node for a second. And if I do this, then now it treats the entire edge around the polygon as one giant curve.
So it subdivides
Now
it essentially.
Different behavior. If I increase the value here, the length, it no longer maintains its original shape, and that's not something I really wanted to do. Now, we do have the convert line node here, so we don't have to worry about this.
You know, I think the thing that really makes me like this the most is that it's probably because I do enjoy programming a lot. And when you're creating things in like Blender, it's more of an artistic approach, right? The way you handle extruding and doing other things. But this is more, it's a little more logical in the sense where you're using nodes to kind of get what you want. And even like Vex, which is,
Polygon line,
you know, some scripting language.
If you want to make sure that it does maintain the shape of your polygon and has the same.
But yeah, man, if you guys like Houdini and stuff like this is Houdini is something that professionals use, right? I'm learning this stuff. If you're interested in like just the development process, you're interested in, you know, essentially like software that people use actually in those companies, right? In the industry, make sure to follow, like, subscribe, all that stuff, because I use this stuff. Like most people would look at this and be like, why is he using this? Like most indie developers, they try to do whatever they can to make it the least expensive, right? Make it not as expensive. But here at the channel, I try to use things that are industry standard besides like Maya. So
By polygon edge.
if you're interested in seeing like what people are actually using
Edge as its own
live,
for a larger polygon.
make sure to click the sub
Make
button.
sure that it resamples the surface properly. Let's turn this back on. And I make sure that resample by polygon edge is turned off. Then down here we also have the ability to change the way how it resamples individual edges. So if I turn off the even last segment same length option, you see how it's building that last part of the line? And that's because this one couldn't reach the exact length of 0.18. Now if I turn on maintain last vertex, it will build that last segment. And this basically allows us to resample a line along the direction of the
I just don't, which
so
might get some wonky
these
results.
are just a few. If we take a curve, like a NURBS curve, for example, let's create another curve node. And if I draw this one into my scene, so by default, we are going to be creating a polygon line again. Let's go ahead and switch this over to NURBS objects. So we now have a NURBS line being created.
I wonder what that stands
Now
for.
I'll grab a copy of my resample node. Let's plug this in. Then you'll notice how it now resamples the NURBS curve instead. And this allows us to turn a NURBS curve into a subdivided polygon line very easily. Because the resample node only outputs polygon lines. That's something to remember. Now if I do a length resample, we can see that we make some very nice curves. And because we've maintained our settings here, so that is a even last segment, same length, and maintain last vertex, these two, we do sort of build this line along from the beginning to the end. So this can be pretty useful if you need to create paths or if you need to create like smooth curves that have been properly resampled. There's even more settings to go through here. We can output attributes. We can use that to find the direction of the curve and the left and right side, but that's not what we're trying to do right now. So let's continue on with the resample node right here. So I'm gonna turn this one back to use the
even last segments looks like it's a little bit.
resample by polygon edge again.
Yeah, it looks like it's a little bit.
Now we have
It's a better choice for what he's trying to do because it per line it equally disperses it,
of our section.
so it feels like you'd get some cleaner results
Next, what I
from
want to
these
do
selections.
is set up this value to something we can actually use, and then promote it to the top level.
Yeah,
So by
expose
default,
it
I set
in
this
the
value
tool itself.
because I want most of my tiles by default to be 2 meters wide. And now, if
So
I
he's going to use tiles.
foundation tool type properties,
Okay. He's going to use tiles. That's interesting.
drag the length value from this node
Into
in here. So let's go ahead and create a new tab inside of my interface, and this one's going to be specifically for the main building settings. So we have the setup tab, and then here we have the main building settings tab. Let's call this one building settings. And I'm gonna grab this length parameter and drag it into that folder. And I will call this one wall segment width. I'll just give it a nice name as well. Okay. Now as for the range, you'll notice how by default it cannot go below 0. Well, that makes sense. We cannot really resample a curve from 0. But I don't want it to go that low. I don't want my tool to create really, really tiny segments for our walls. In fact, let's make sure it cannot go below a value of 1 in this case.
okay.
So let's lock it at 1, and we can leave the maximum value at 5. That's fine.
You think it'd be like 2?
Just to check, under channels,
Because even after 2, it looks like it's not subdividing at all.
so with that, let's click apply,
Right? He has it
close the window,
set to 2, and if you look, there's no subdivisions on it.
parameter panel.
But
You will now see that we have a wall segment control right here. So if I go ahead and drag this around,
yeah, you see that he can do it. But anything after 2, it's
control
there's nothing,
dimensions of the
right?
curve.
So you think
Our
that
curve is a little small in my scene, so let me quickly go and size it up a bit. Go to the outside of our building tool, grab the handle tool, and I'm just gonna move around my points a little, give myself a slightly bigger building to work with. Okay? Alright, so that should be enough. And I'm actually gonna remove that point over here. So we should have a nice and clean building shape. Okay, so next let's move on. Next what I want to do is take each one of these subdivisions and again carve them into individual segments. Now we already did this before. We can simply use a convert line node and drop it in below the resample. And just before I continue, let me go ahead and name these nodes. So I'm going to call the group expression node the check if reversed node. The reverse node here is going to be reverse flip group.
you think you would put something with normal in there.
Line node will keep the same. And then the resample node, I'm going to call this resample by segment width. Now this particular node has a control on it that's being promoted to the top level.
Nice.
And I want to color this node yellow, because that's my personal naming or color convention for nodes that have some kind of parameter on it that can be changed. I don't always use it, but it does allow me to recognize that this node is being controlled by another parameter from outside. And that's a good thing to do. And then, like I said, let's go ahead and grab a convert line node and plug it in below.
Is he going to convert these
Now in
again?
this case, I do want to make sure that compute length is set up. And I want to change this name. I'm going to change this to width, because I wanted to output this attribute as a width attribute. Now, as you can see, it's now outputting two attributes right here, the rest length and the width. And also the rest length is now 0 because our second convert line node has destroyed the attribute. So this is something that some nodes in Houdini tend to do. The convert line node has a tendency to destroy some attributes.
Okay.
Now there's another way to carve up a line, the similar way how the convert line node does, and that's by using a carve node. Let's go ahead and create a carve node. And the carve node, plug this in, allows us to take a line and segment it based on a distance, or rather a percentage, along the curve. So every single primitive here has a distance along it. Let's say I turn both on here. You can see how I can basically unroll or keep only a part of each individual curve as a percentage. That's useful in some cases. But in this case, what I want to do is I want to set both the first U and second U, make sure they're both turned on, and then set them to 0 and 1 for the full range, and then go to breakpoints. And then under breakpoints, go to cut all internal U breakpoints. And when we do this, it's going to have the same effect as the convert line, except it doesn't destroy our attribute. So the convert line node actually did destroy our rest length attribute right here that came from the node above.
Well, the carve didn't.
Carving. And the carve node doesn't do that. Now the carve node again has its own issues, so usually I need to flip between these two depending on the situation I'm working with. Now the carve node does have the tendency to not carve every single segment. It's a little bit bugged, and the easy way to get around that is by simply putting a second one right below it. Basically, sometimes it doesn't completely carve up every single segment, and maybe these two are combined as one primitive object. Putting two of them in a single line, like this, will bypass that problem 100% of the time.
Really?
And
that's a little interesting.
We don't have the measuring feature of the convert line node. We can also create a measure node. And the measure node will allow us to grab the length of each segment. So it will write it to every primitive, which in this case is every single segment here.
By the way, guys, we're going to be running a little bit over the clock today. I know typically we get off around 1 or 2, but I'm going to finish this video and then we'll call it. I'm going to use the restroom really quick. I'll be right back. And let me just turn some music on for you guys. Uno momento, mi amigos. All right, guys, I'm back. Just put my headset on and go ahead and mute this and get back to the video.
If I go ahead, I can grab every single line and I can write a width attribute to those. So over here under the measure node,
he's doing a lot of things here. We have a measure.
Perimeter. And this will calculate out the perimeter of every one of our lines or of the edges of a polygon surface. And in this case, if I change the...
So is he going to use that to divide it in half?
It will do the same thing. So you can see how there are two different ways in Houdini here to do the same thing. We have the convert line node, and then we have the carve nodes with the measure. Both do the same thing, except one does not destroy the attributes that come into it, and the other one doesn't have the buggy issue where you need to line two of them up in a row to make sure that it carves up everything.
Sorry, my kid's running around.
In general, there are a dozen ways to skin a cat in Houdini, pardon the expression, but
Don't skin cats, chat.
usually there's
Don't
one
skin cats. Hug them and kiss them.
way
Huh, Pip?
that is more efficient, or doesn't destroy your attributes, or keeps your groups intact, and knowing how these work is very useful. And I will cover a lot of this during the masterclass. So, you know, keep watching and you'll learn something, right? Now, okay, at this point we have our lines, but we lost our surface. Well, we can fix that. First thing we need to do is reconnect every single one of these lines together.
The fuse?
The convert line node and the car. Right now, every one of our points here is a disconnected point. And to fix that, we can use a fuse node. So let's grab a fuse node.
That's right.
And plug this in below. And what this will do is, based on a certain distance, it will fuse all of our points together. So
Which
now
is-
we have a single series of lines that are fully connected, just like we originally had.
Okay.
Now we still have some of our attributes down here, including the rest length and the flip group, which are pretty much useless at this point. So let's go ahead and clean those up. First, I don't need the rest length from the original convert line, so I'm going to turn this off. That gets rid of that attribute, at least over here in the fuse node. And then next, we have this group. Now I don't need this one anymore, so I'm going to create a group delete node here.
He's just gonna delete it.
Clean this one up too. And I'm gonna specify the flip group to be removed. Now this node is a deletion node, so I am going to color it red.
It's more like light red.
I will call this one
No big deal. No big deal.
Group. Okay, so next let's go ahead and create a polyfill node.
Polyfill, huh?
If I create one, allows us to take a edge group or a series of edges like we have here and recombine them into a polygon surface. Now it's gonna try and do this based on circular connections like this, and in our case it's a very simple situation, so we don't really have to worry about it. But what I do want to do is make sure that it doesn't do this quadding, try to make it into a quad surface.
Okay.
So over here on the fill mode, I'm going to change this one to single polygon. And now we have our surface back, but we still have our edges. And that's good because I want to keep them.
A lot of stuff just to get those edges in,
All
right?
Edges and polygons are connected to one another. They're all part of the same
You know,
mesh.
it's a little extra work, but then you can make
Shares the same
ultimately an infinite amount of
surface. If I move this around,
buildings,
then now we have both our surface and our
which is like the power behind this tool, right?
is connected. And normally you don't actually want to go and do this, but in our case, I want to split them up, right? I want to filter them out, each one. And we can do this very easily by creating
Very
like
easily.
before polyfill. So let's go ahead and create a group node
I don't think this is gonna be done very easily. He says very easily,
before it.
but he said that before, and it didn't look easy.
So let's name this group the edge group. I'm gonna name the node first.
Yeah, I think in the after this live stream's finished, I'm gonna try to go to this segment in there and include this channel.
Should be a primitive.
So if you're watching this from the past, you can go ahead and
And what this will do is
be linked immediately to the video and watch that.
primitive group, specifically for my edges.
That way you can go and subscribe to the guy too, because these are really,
My
really
polyfill,
in-depth tutorials.
those edges with a polygon. But
He discusses vex. He discusses the various types of way to handle a situation.
polygon when it's created.
So
So this will allow me to easily filter them out. Now at this point, we've pretty much finished this part of the lecture, and we'll continue in the next video. But before I finish up, I quickly want to clean up the last parts of my network here.
I guess we're not running over the
And
clock.
give some names to some of these nodes here. First, we have this convert line node, and this convert line node is also creating our width attribute. So it's creating an attribute. So I'm going to color it light blue in this case. In this case, I'm going to call it convert line width. Then next, down here, I have the edge group node. Let's go ahead and give this the green color, which is the color I tend to use for nodes that affect groups. Now
That's not green.
Here.
That's not green, chat.
Well, so now that we have all of this set up, there's one last thing that I want to add, and
Pretty good tutorial. Yeah, I know, right? It's very in depth.
Curves.
And you know, this Houdini is something that professionals use, right? So if you're interested in learning about this program with me, you know, make sure to click the subscribe button and the like button as well, and also the notification button, because then you know when I stream next or when I drop a live video. We do weekly devlogs here. We haven't done them for what, guys, like the past 2 weeks, but that was due to vacation, essentially, you know, the holidays. But we are continuing that this week. This week's video is going to probably be about this, and most definitely about the logo. So I just need to find a way to start getting. I think the first thing I'm going to purchase is an external hard drive that I can save these recordings on. That way I can just pull them out and chop up and do stuff of that nature, because downloading the videos after I recorded them is just a lot, and recording them on my machine is just, I don't have enough memory for that. So at some point, we're going to have to get a hold of an external SSD to do that on.
And of course, this is a deletion type node, so I'm going to color it red. And I will call this the remove, scale, and rotate attributes. So in here, let's plug this in. And I want to make sure that this node removes the scale and rotation attribute before we feed the curves from Unreal into our tool. And like I said, if we don't do this, then it's going to give us a 0 value for the scale. And well, basically down here, these attributes, there's going to be a scale and a rotation attribute as well. And those are going to be fed through our system. And then later on, it's going to play with our systems. It's going to play with our nodes.
Okay.
Cause things to be scaled down to 0. And it's going to break a lot of stuff at the weirdest places. Okay.
Okay.
So that's one tip. If you're plugging in a node from Unreal, I suggest you remove these attributes. Okay, so at this point we are ready. Let's continue.
Actually, you know, I'll probably leave the tutorial link
And in the next video
of this channel in the subscription,
on the
or in the description. Subscription. They rhyme, so therefore they must be the same thing.
Let me drag this over.
No.
Example project. You can see how I'm taking the edge that we have from our building, and I'm going to extrude it. And I'm going to do this for the floor height, and then I'm going to copy it later on for every single one of our tiles. And then we'll start processing other parts, such as which parts are going to be corners.
It looks like a lot, but really it's not. Nodes are easy to
I suggest you
put
go
in.
ahead and save your scene. And lastly, let's go ahead and go to the tool itself. Go to Save Node Type and save the changes of our asset. So now it will have saved our changes and stored it inside of our building HDA.
All right.
So thank you for watching this.
Okay, guys. Yeah, I'm going to copy this video. I'm going to put it in the description of this live stream. So if you're watching this from the past, you can tune in to this guy. But if you're happen to watch this far, it's E Houdini Academy. So far, great tutorials. I'm going to watch the next one off stream. That way you guys aren't bogged down with me watching these tutorials for an hour. I'd prefer to work, but we need to learn this stuff so we can potentially do some hopefully amazing things in our game. But with that being said, I'm going to hippity on hop out of this stream. So thank you all for being here. Much love to all of you, to everyone that showed up. If you're watching right now and you haven't already, please make sure to click the like and subscribe button on this channel. I am the Christian developer. So if you like, games and you're a Christian, go ahead and click that sub button. And even if you're not a Christian, click the sub button. But yeah, on this channel, we use, industry standard programs besides Blender. They don't like Blender for some weird reason. So yeah, if you're interested in seeing all those little things, please make sure to subscribe. Ria says, see you next time. Had a good time. Thank you, Ria. I appreciate that. Because you know what? I feel like watching those tutorials are not that, but it's good to see that some people enjoy it. And, I appreciate all y'all being here because it's great company for me as well. And I hope I'm providing that same service to you guys. But other than that, I'll catch y'all around. Y'all have a blessed day. Jesus loves you. And I'll catch you later. Bye. Bye.